Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. It is Wednesday, and we're ready to go. We got a packed crew here in the studio, and I'm excited. I know Kool-Aid is excited, a.k.a. Brandon Dent. He's with us as well. Sam Flannel, my partner in crime. JB, the man on the ones and twos. How's everyone doing this morning?
You know what's funny? I know yesterday was kind of a show in which I lost my cool quite a bit, but...
Yeah, let's get a Sam Flannel update. How you doing this morning?
You know what's funny, though? As time went on, I kind of realized, man, I may have went a little bit too far with some of my antics. And during the BDE chat, I was actually having a little bit of a therapy session with some of our loyal listeners. And as time went on, I don't know. I'm going to try to goose Fabra a little bit more going forward.
The rumor was you stopped at Dispo, you indulged, and now you're much more chiller this morning. Sam Flannel, and it's all good. Hey, we get heated debates. The next day, we reset. We're ready to talk some Lions. In other news, really quickly, before we get to like Taylor Decker stuff, because he's on the injury report, it is concerning, and I'll get into all that, of course. We'll talk about the division at 8:15. Nick Mullins, new starter in Minnesota. Come on. You can't lose to this team at all. Like, you should sweep the Vikings. Nick Mullins, you kidding me? He's not mobile, so you have that, Lions fans. But still, we'll talk about that. Concern for the division. How quickly can the Lions clinch the division? 8:30. We're going to go through an article on Pride of Detroit, and it's an article basically stating the three biggest issues for the Lions and if they're fixable. I'll bring those up. 8:45, we'll go through the NFC playoff picture. Look up some matchups for that, who the Lions are facing at this current point in time. 9 o'clock, I want to ask another question, just kind of how the Lions and where they shape up for the rest of the league. The question is, how big of a separation are Dallas, San Francisco, Philadelphia from Detroit? I want to have that conversation as well at 9 o'clock. And then, of course, 9:16, we'll hand out grades. And not really mid-season grades, but, towards the end of the season grades for Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, and Aiden Hutchinson. We'll go through our grades for that. And then at 9:30, we have Brandon Dent with us, so I think it's very fitting that we ask the question. And this is what we need to talk about for the Pistons. Will they break the NBA's losing consecutive loss record, which I believe is 28, and they're at 20. So they need 9 more losses. Can they do it? Can't wait to talk about that at 9:30. It'll be a good conversation.
Torturing the poor guy.
But as of right now, Brandon Dent, I want to ask you, what the hell happened yesterday on E&E? What the hell was going on over there?
Bro,
Bunch of screaming. It was like that SpongeBob episode where everyone's throwing stuff in the fire. There's a bunch of SpongeBobs. That's what it looked like on E&E watching it. What happened?
Absolute chaos, man. Absolute chaos. I still don't quite know what happened. But first, the sound system got messed up, and then the whole stream crashed from the TD booth side. I don't know, man. Maybe it was fate.
Yeah, and then apparently it's all your fault, too. I guess that's the other part of it. It's all Brandon's fault, right?
That's
even though our show was smooth with you in the sound booth. But, hey, it's different when you're on E&E. All right? Your finger's going to be pointed at you. That's how that works. No, it was weird. Maz was screaming around in the studio. Somebody push a button. That's what he was saying repeatedly. Oh gosh, yeah. I know a lot of people.
Appreciate you, bro.
I know a lot of people. No, I got you. And a lot of people in the chat too were watching the Ermanni Networks with Maz. I want your guys' reaction to that too. I don't know. I saw some clips yesterday. I was kind of tuning in live. It was hectic. Cody Engel says the 2 p.m. divas can't handle stress. I didn't say that. You said it, Cody. Booner says just push a button. Yeah, listen. On the Morning Woodward Show, when we have issues, we just solve them. That's how that works. We just fix them. I don't give a damn who does it. I don't care whose fault it is. I'm not going to call for anyone's job. Just fix it. Me and Sam Flannel are the most easygoing guys on planet Earth.
Believe it or not, it's true.
Actually, yes. Believe it or not, although Sam Flannel will go off sometimes, he's passionate. We are easygoing.
But maybe that's why the numbers look the way they do.
That's it. That is fair. Ooh. That is fair. But hey,
damn,
just keep pushing buttons, Brandon. All right, just keep pushing buttons.
And any show is fortunate to have the pleasure of having one Brandon Kool-Aid Dent as their sound guy. I'll just say that.
Yeah,
I certainly feel grateful.
Absolutely, and JB. I mean,
JB.
Well, I was gonna say, and they got JB. JB. You're the most easygoing, no stress dude at this network.
Yeah.
And even you were losing hair.
Dude, I don't know what happened yesterday. I literally don't. I leave for a couple hours and it's like the world is ending. I don't know what is going on. Yeah. I didn't even get to watch the show. I'm just driving around for Dispo and I'm just like getting all these text messages. I'm like, what is happening? No.
Yeah, and then you got KG just sitting there going, "Oh, this is what it's like." No. Man. This is how they roll. Oh, it's funny, man. It is, and I'm happy, man. I love the team we have on the Morning Woodward show. Listen, if problems arise, we don't point fingers, we just fix them. It's that simple. It's a team effort here. Mike Bell says, "Jeff, everyone can't be easygoing." That is true, Mike.
Yeah.
Not everyone can be. Everyone has different temperaments. You know, some people. Although some would say I'm a diva. That is the narrative. Some would say I'm a diva, but hey, some people are actual divas. All right, let's bring up the Taylor Decker stuff because I think this is significant. Justin Rogers tweeted this out yesterday. Or put on X. God, I always correct myself. Stupid app. He says, a reminder, the Lions have started 9 different O-line combinations this season. If both Decker and Ragnow can't go, it'll end up being a 10th. So that's not great.
No.
The offensive line we were excited to see, you've only saw a handful of times.
Yeah.
And it's right back to subbing guys out and mix and matching. Taylor Decker dealing with a back injury. Frank Ragnow had a limited practice. Sam, I just need one of those guys to play. Please.
Yeah, and honestly, and shout out Lucas Klotz for this. He still is I would say, a silent member of the show, always making suggestions. He actually brought this to our attention, and I think we kind of mentioned in passing that Taylor Decker, he's had some rough games lately too as well. He definitely got torched by Rashawn Gary. He had some problems with Montez Sweat. But you'd still obviously rather have him in because I'll tell you what. When we're looking at backup offensive linemen, Graham Glasgow, I was talking about him as almost like a miracle signing. He's not looked his best lately. And then if you have to put Colby Sorsdal out there or Keoti Awosika or whoever the hell is going to play backup tackle, that's the type of thing that can make this Lions offense go from elite to not even good because the offensive line is the engine of this team. And when you're missing a guy like Frank Ragnow for stretches, and that's obviously the biggest one. And then Jonah Jackson for stretches. And then maybe Taylor Decker moving forward. That's significant. Vaitai hasn't really played at all this year. It's as long as their offensive line is healthy, I think it's still the best in the league. But moving forward, is it ever going to be healthy?
That's the question.
I mean, this year.
You're 100% right. When healthy, I think they're the best, if not the second best offensive line in the National Football League. But the question is, when are they healthy?
Right.
They've struggled to be healthy, have a complete unit. And it's frustrating because we have these conversations about Jared Goff and he's not playing well. At least it's not even about the 2 interceptions against the Bears because I get it. One of them was in garbage time. The other one was just I get all that. Not all interceptions are made the same, but he hasn't really looked like the Jared we've seen early in the year. The other part of that, Sam, and you mentioned it, Taylor Decker's not playing his best as of late. The offensive line isn't playing their best as of late. Those 2 things coincide.
Sure.
The offensive line struggling, Jared Goff struggling. He's not a quarterback, and we had this conversation before. He kind of goes how the offensive line goes.
Yep.
If they keep him upright and they play a damn good game, Jared probably will play a pretty good game. That's just how that works. Now, it's not ideal for a franchise quarterback that everything has to be perfect, but that's where we are right now. So ideally against Denver, who, again, defensively have looked a lot better. Second half of the season than the first half, and I think they're number 1 in takeaways. And they got dudes all over their secondary that can take the football away. They can. And you got an offense for the Lions that can't just keep seeming to just turn the football over. It's not ideal. You need one of these guys back. And the Broncos are an opportunistic defense. They've given up 70 to the Dolphins, but the turnovers, man, that's what it is. And that's what I keep preaching for this defense. If you can get turnovers like the Broncos can do, it helps. And that is a concern going into this weekend. It is for Jared Goff. Like, I know we talk about it, don't turn the football over. Well, you're facing a team that loves to take the ball away.
And has Patrick Surtain and Justin Simmons in the secondary, 2 very elite players, especially when they're playing their best, particularly
one of the best at their position.
100%, without a shadow of a doubt. And the Denver Broncos, who would have thought this going at the beginning of the season? The Denver Broncos are legitimately fighting for their division. If they come into Ford Field, and please God, I hope this doesn't happen, if they come into Ford Field and actually beat our Detroit Lions, they're actually seeing themselves as maybe we can actually overtake the Chiefs in the AFC West. I guess my point point is that the Denver Broncos is no longer an easy game. Russell Wilson in particular, too, a guy who struggled mightily last year, had the worst season of his career. This year is back to being maybe not prime Russell Wilson, but putting up numbers, not turning the football over as much and actually, throwing touchdown passes. I think he has about a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio after last year being 16-12 as a touchdown to interception ratio. That is a significant improvement, and a lot of that probably has to do with Sean Payton. So the Denver Broncos are definitely formidable. I still think, and I'm going to give it away slightly later on in the week, I still think the Lions should win this game, but it is not going to be easy. And if they don't, that's some red alert type stuff right there.
Mike G says Russell Wilson's hair. Or Russell Wilson has a Lego hair.
That's a Neil Ruleism.
Oh, is that what Neil Rule?
Yeah,
it kind of does. And I think about it, it just looks like you just kind of click it right on his dome there, just Lego hair. But the thing about Lego hair, Russell Wilson, and I will say this, and listen, the clots. You didn't think I'd get to it? I got to it. Who won that debate? What would be a tougher game? Because his quarterback isn't even starting anymore for Dobbs. All right.
I think it's a wash still.
You think even with Nick Mullins? You think it'll be a tougher game than the Broncos game?
We'll get to a reason why a little bit later. I don't want to give everything away in the first part of the show, and the Lions have to face them twice. I think they're both. If you would have looked at the beginning of the season with the way the Broncos and the Vikings both started, you would have thought, oh my goodness, this is such an easy stretch at the end of the year. All you got to do is face a tough team in the Cowboys, and you're pretty much home free. That is not the case anymore. Every single one of those teams is fighting for their division.
Yeah.
And looking to spoil the Lions' chances as well.
I agree. The teams you have coming up, they're all fighting for something. They're all going to be difficult games. But when me and Lucas debated it, it was what team would be a tougher matchup? I said the Broncos. Lucas said the Vikings. I think it's the Broncos. And we're about to find out this weekend. And hopefully, listen, I think the Lions are the better team. They're not playing like it.
No.
So it's not about, it's not about what team you face. It's when you face them. The Lions are a better team, but the Broncos are facing a team they've lost 2 of their last 3 games.
Yeah.
So the timing of it isn't ideal. All right, let's go to break. When we come back, we'll get into the division talk. Speaking of the Vikings, and we'll go through Nick Mullins. He's the new starter. The Josh Dobbs storyline is over. There you go. Linsanity-esque run from Josh Dobbs there. But first, we got to hear about our friends from Lady Jane's.
Of course, Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men, where I get all of my A+ haircuts from the A+ stylist. Come to Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men for an award-winning haircut experience. Register to win a trip of your dreams, and all expenses paid suite for the 2024 NCAA tournament. That's right, no expense spared for you and 5 of your best buds. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
Let me tell you about Jack Labrador, our new sponsor. The game is fun. We played it yesterday. I mean, we competed all against each other. It was me versus Mike Gentry. He whooped my ass one time. I got his ass. It's basically a rock, paper, scissors on steroids. It's a lot of fun. You can play with your buddies. You have a drinking game. You have debates. Me and Sam Flannel are going to try it when we argue. It's a lot of fun. It was made by 3 buddies wanting more out of rock, paper, scissors. 2 new symbols added onto the game as well. 3-point play. Once you go Jack, you'll never go back. It's a deck of cards, 3 new games of nonstop action. It's the perfect no-brainer stocking stuffer for all ages. Scan the QR code or go to www.jacklabrador.com to get your deck today.
Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
We've just received word. The world's cannabis supply has vanished. The public is outraged and has taken to the streets in response to this tragedy. The individual responsible acted alone, and we can only hope they will make things right soon.
What happens when you run a great business for over 50 years? You expand and offer more products to more people. This is exactly what Les Stanford did by adding Les Stanford Buick GMC, the same great service that customers have come to know and trust on Woodward Avenue, just south of 9 Mile. Check out Les Stanford in Dearborn today. Find the brand you want at lesstanford.com. Let's talk about it. NFC North race. The Detroit Lions currently lead that. And I'll tell you what, they control their own destiny. To win the NFC North as soon as week 16, all they'd have to do, beat the Broncos, beat the Vikings, they clinch.
Oh, yeah.
It's theirs.
It's over.
It's that simple. And the Lions, like I said, they control their destiny. So from all the panic after Sunday's game of we're gonna lose, I don't worry. I remember some of the comments I've seen, especially after that loss. Some people saying they're gonna go 9-8, they're gonna lose all the rest of the games on the season. I get it. It's frustrating, but that's a little over the top there. I understand, but they're gonna be just fine. I still believe that. I had them at 11-6. I think they could still win 11 games at least, and we have to take the time. Especially after a game like Sunday, or the Lions have lost 2 of their last 3 and things are looking rough and it seems like they're going backwards. We have to remember how significant it will be. And when I say when they win the NFC North, because I think they will, because it's the first time that's ever happened, for at least in my lifetime and a lot of other people's lifetime. So despite all the BS we've had to endure this year, the storylines, the defense, Aaron Glenn, Jared Goff, they're going to win the NFC North. Ooh. And you're going to host a playoff game at Ford Field. Like, let's not forget that. Despite, after the trade deadline, everybody being frustrated, including myself, everything. Sam, they're still going to host a playoff game. They're still going to win their division. Now, they ain't going to win a playoff game if they play like they did last Sunday.
No.
But you'll have an opportunity to win a playoff game. You have an opportunity to get two big monkeys off your back. Oh, yeah. 2 things that have been haunting this franchise for a while. And I still think, despite all the stuff you can say, the negative things, Sam, that's what I want people to remember, that's still on the table. Those 2 things that we Lions fans set out to have before the season, it's still for the taking.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only on the table, it's, I would say, at least to win the division, still overwhelmingly likely. And if they have a home playoff game, I think they will be the favorites, because who knows who they will end up playing, but probably a team like the Vikings or the Rams or something like that. And as long as the Lions don't completely implode to end the year, I think everything should be all set up for them to do that. And one of the factors is that the Green Bay Packers, they went to New York and they lost. Coming into that game after the Lions had just lost to the Bears on that previous Sunday, I was thinking, oh my goodness, the Packers or the Vikings are dangerous. But right now I think the Packers are out, because I do believe that the Lions win 2 out of their next 4. I believe they beat Denver, and I believe they split with the Vikings, and then you're pretty much home. You win the division at that rate. But the Minnesota Vikings, I was doing a little bit of digging before the show, and I didn't even realize this. I knew that their defense has been a lot better, but did you guys know that this defense, that last year was even worse statistically than the Lions, that lost so many of their best players, Eric Kendricks, old past his prime Patrick Peterson, Dalvin Tomlinson, Zadarius Smith, this season under the tutelage of Brian Flores is 5th in the NFL in scoring defense. 5th. Wow. And that's like, it's funny too, because if I'm Kirk Cousins, I'm just punching the air right now, because Kirk Cousins has to be one of the unluckiest quarterbacks of all time, because they actually get him a defense and now he's out, and now the Lions are going to have to face Nick Mullins instead, because if they had Kirk Cousins and a healthy Justin Jefferson, they might win this division, but they don't, and everything is all well and good. But that Vikings defense, led by Danielle Hunter, I think we would all agree he's a fringe defensive player of the year candidate. It wouldn't shock me if he's in the running. DJ Wanham has stepped up. Ivan Pace, rookie undrafted linebacker, who I know me and Broder have talked about,
he's good,
has been huge. Their safeties, Cameron Bynum, Josh Metellus, fine Michigan man, and probably future Gold Jacket guy Harrison Smith, who still has some left. They're formidable, and the Lions have to face them twice, but as long as they beat them once, they are 100% home free. Thank you, by the way, again, to your messiah, Tommy DeVito. Like, for real. For real, that was absolutely huge. But the Lions, I guess what you were trying to say in the beginning and what we're all trying to say now is that there have been a lot of rough patches lately. We have not seen the Lions play their best football. In fact, we've seen them play their worst football probably since the beginning of last year. But they're still 9-4. They're still the overwhelming favorites to win the division, and they're probably going to be favored in a home playoff game. So everything is fine for now. just don't lose to the damn Broncos.
No, and you know what? Tommy DeVito, just like a superhero, just flew across the sky. Like a lightning flash. And then you're like, who is that? And he beat the Packers for you.
Oh, yeah.
And the Packers have a pretty, I mean, at least on paper, had a pretty easy schedule. Now a little different. I think they play the Bengals still, and Jake Browning is balling. So, like I said, when we say this schedule's easy and this schedule's easy, things kind of change throughout a season. Like the Lions, the end of the season, the schedule looks a lot different. But you are absolutely correct, Sam, about everything you said about the Vikings. Now, Nick Mullins, good thing for the Lions defense. He's not mobile. You go through his career, I think he has like 36 rushing attempts in his career for like -3 yards.
That's
like
not
he's
great.
a statue. So when we talk about Fields, Dobbs, and all these mobile quarterbacks, you're going to get Nick Mullins, and he's a statue. So at least that helps you. And he's not great, at least in his career. But again, guys have career games against this defense, so we'll see. I do think the Lions will win the next 2 games. I know it sounds crazy at this point because they're not playing well. I do think they'll beat the Broncos. It's going to be close, though. The Broncos, man, and I think that'll be a nail-biter, I think, down to the end. I don't think they blow out the Broncos. But the following game, and I'm not sure, I have to double-check, it's at Minnesota, so you're on the road following Denver. That one, of course, on the road is going to be tough, but I just don't see a scenario they lose to Nick Mullins. If they do, I think we should be sitting here going, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Because you're going to end up facing, most likely, we'll see how it trends. I know the playoff picture is very, very close. I mean, you have the Giants, who are like a game out of the wild card spot. Ridiculous. You're probably going to face an NFC North team. Mm-hmm. You might face the Vikings in the playoffs.
Oh, man, that's like 3 times in 5 weeks at that point.
So if you beat them twice, to go off Klotz's logic, it's hard to beat a team 3 times.
It is.
And not saying they can't do it, but like I said, you very well might see the Vikings again, Sam, in the postseason.
Well, and the reality is when Kirk Cousins went down, that was huge. I know Josh Dobbs was able to be the Band-Aid and obviously come in and win them some games. I mean, not by himself, but it was either him or Jaron Reed at that moment, a rookie from BYU, I believe. And now Josh Dobbs kind of came back to earth. It didn't take him long to go from being the toast of Minnesota to benched for Nick Mullins. That is a hard legacy if you're Josh Dobbs. So as much as the Vikings are formidable, they're playing basically a third-string quarterback right now. As long as the Lions offense can get some things going, I think that the Lions should have an advantage over the Vikings, because I'd venture to guess that the Minnesota Vikings haven't faced a lot of offenses the caliber of the Detroit Lions. I know they faced the Eagles. I know they faced the 49ers. They actually beat the 49ers. I think they were missing Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel, but still, this is the Minnesota Vikings. As much as I respect them, as much as I was wrong for one of the worst predictions I've ever made in my life, that the Vikings would implode and their defense would be last in the league, as much as that's all not true and they actually have a damn good defense, the Detroit Lions should still win this game, because when you're down to a third-string quarterback and you're the Minnesota Vikings and it's Nick freaking Mullins, at some point you just have to say, guys, it's Nick Mullins, kind of like early on in the season. Guys, it's Desmond Ridder. Guys, it's Bryce Young. Guys, it's Baker Mayfield. Guys, it's beginnings of Jordan Love before he really figured it out. You just got to win those games.
Have to. And I want your guys' thoughts on this too, the whole Vikings thing. And again, I see people's comments. Jake says if we beat the Vikings twice, I think it's really tough for them to make it. Yeah,
that's a good point. They might not make it.
If you beat them twice, they'd have to beat the Bengals and the Packers, and they'd be 9-8. So I don't know. In the NFC, that might be good enough to get in. I don't know. But even if you split, now we're talking about a team that you could face again, KG. But Nick Mullins, I know it sounds weird, and I know that Kevin O'Connell, he's a damn good coach. He feels like Nick Mullins gives them their best opportunity to win. But at the same time, I'll take a non-mobile Nick Mullins over Josh Dobbs.
Yeah,
just because of the mobility.
To me, it's a sign that they're maybe folding on the rest of the season, because I don't know how you don't put in Josh Dobbs at this point. He's been your best option this far, but hey, it helps us. So I would absolutely take Nick Mullins. Like you said, he's a statue. He's not very mobile. The Lions in their subpar pass rush should be able to get to Nick Mullins. They were able to get to Justin Fields 3 times in this last game. So hopefully they can get back there and get some pressure on Nick Mullins.
And Danielle Hunter's a problem.
Yes.
No one's denying that, especially if Taylor Decker's not playing his best. That's going to be one of those games where this offensive line, ideally you'd like him to be healthy, but Brandon, I want to go to you on this too. Any concern? I mean, I said I think the Lions will lock up this division in 2 more games. I think they beat the Broncos, they beat the Vikings on the road, and they lock it up. Anything any concern that they'll drop one of those games? Or are you confident they can lock up this thing pretty quickly?
I mean, like you said, it feels as if with these Vikings games, and if they do take care of business with the Denver Broncos, that this is tailor-made for the Lions to go out there and win this division.
Yeah.
And honestly, I want to see them take control. Go into the playoffs with some momentum and not go into the playoffs with what everybody else has been kind of thinking over the last week or two, that their expectations is lowered, that they're going to go into the playoffs and just be one and done. Go on with some momentum. You got a couple favorable matchups. Go in there and prove it.
Do you think if they win the division and they lose in the wild card, how would you look at this season?
I would look at as a variation of a failure.
Okay.
I would, because when you lose a home playoff game as a favorite, there's no guarantee that they'll even get back. I mean, we're talking about it right now. The Vikings have some promising pieces, and they might even make the playoffs this year. The Green Bay Packers have a lot of pieces on defense that we like. Some young wide receivers. Jordan Love looks like he's on the verge of figuring out. And the Chicago Bears, they're gonna have the number 1 overall pick because the Panthers are so terrible and traded for it for the right to draft Bryce Young. And then they're probably going to have another top 10 to 15 pick, plus a bunch of cap space, plus a bunch of their players having another year in the system. I mean, TJ Edwards is going to be there. Tremaine Edmonds is going to be there. I mean, the division is not going to be as easy moving forward. So you want to take advantage of the opportunity right now and at least get that playoff win monkey off their back. It's been since 91. I was less than 2 months old when the Lions last won a playoff game. You can't, at some point, you just got to get that monkey off your back.
And wouldn't it be similar? Not that they're the same exact. They're not constructed the same, but the Vikings last year, they won the division. They lost in the first. They lost to the Giants.
Yeah. And it was.
I would classify that as a failure.
It was a failure.
They're a 13-win team, and you lose to the Giants. And Daniel Jones, you got him paid.
You did, and that's the thing.
Or they got him.
They gave up a legacy, the Daniel Jones legacy game. The reason why Daniel Jones is probably generationally wealthy for life, because I'll tell you what, if he wouldn't have had that game, maybe the Giants don't even pay him, and they're probably better off right now because Daniel Jones is terrible, and he's now going through injuries. So yeah, I think that it is a failure if the Lions lose a home playoff game.
I would agree, and I know the division is, we can't just underestimate that. It's an accomplishment. I've never seen them win a division, even under Jim Caldwell, the years they've had. They never won the NFC North, and now without Aaron Rodgers, things open up. It's a wide open field. So the Lions, if they win the division, it's an accomplishment. But if you don't win a playoff game, to me that would sting more. Because you can win the division, but the whole point of winning the division is to get the home playoff game to win a playoff game. So if you win the division and you don't win a playoff game, to me I would still classify that as a failure. I know it's a little aggressive, but the whole point of this whole season, I would rather them not win the division and win a playoff game. I know it sounds kind of weird.
Yeah.
But the playoff game should be number 1. Winning a playoff game.
Well, and also considering the fact that when you look at wild card teams potentially, the only one that I would say would be a good team would be either the Eagles or the Cowboys, whoever loses that division. If you're the Detroit Lions and you're the 3 seed, you're probably looking at playing the Vikings, maybe the Packers, the Rams, the Seahawks. All those teams will probably either have 8 or 9 wins at that point.
Even if how the Seahawks with their record and how the Rams look, I don't want.
No.
Those are going to be tough teams.
I mean, hell.
With how Stafford's playing right now.
I mean, even the Chicago Bears could sneak their way into the playoffs. And we all know as Lions fans that do we necessarily trust them against the Packers or the Chicago Bears? I mean, we can't say that with certainty because they lost to them. They lost to each of them. And they lost to the Seahawks, by the way. And the Rams with Matthew Stafford at quarterback are actually looking pretty damn good. We forget that when the Rams were looking bad, it was when they had backup quarterbacks, when they had Brett Rippon playing of all. When Matthew Stafford is in the lineup, especially with the emergence of Puka Nacua and along with Cooper Kupp, they're formidable. If I'm a Lions fan, I don't want to see Matthew Stafford win his first Ford Field playoff game against our Lions as a member of the Rams. It's going to be tough.
How messed up would that be?
It's possible, though.
Oh, gosh. Matthew Stafford on the road beats the Lions at Ford Field. That is the biggest mind fuck in the history of mind fucks. Matthew Stafford comes to Ford Field. I don't even want to talk about it. The Lions should win a playoff game. That's what should happen. That's what we expect. I don't expect nothing less. Now, more is something we can have a debate about because I've said it myself. I think they win a playoff game and they fall short, and that's okay. You build on it for the following season. It is what it is. But if you lose that first playoff game, I'm pissed off. Everyone's pissed off.
Agreed.
All right, let's go to break here. When we come back, I do want to have a conversation kind of about this article that Pride of Detroit put out because it is a great article. I do believe it highlights 3 problems with the Detroit Lions, and I'll ask you guys, I'll read them off. You agree, disagree, how much of a concern is each of the issues? I think they did a really good job writing this article. But right now, you got to hear about our friends from Dispo, Sam Flannel.
Yes, the Dispo Christmas Extravaganza is coming to Dispo. Experience the Dispo difference this Christmas season. Dispo is giving away a TV as well as 2 $100 in-store gift cards per week at participating locations. Nobody does it like the Dispo family. Unwrap the joy of Dispo Dispensary every week. Join them in celebrating for the holidays. See store for more details. Dispo Dispensary, disposhops.com, your local cannabis plug.
Have you ever wondered where all the finest restaurants get their steaks? It's Fairway Packing Company, providing Michigan restaurants, hotels, and casinos with prime beef for over 60 years. But now you can buy these cuts of meat for yourself at the Steak Shop by Fairway Packing Company. Prime porterhouse, A5 Japanese New York strip steak, dry aged Wagyu beef tomahawk. Delicious. Get to the Steak Shop today. Enjoy fine wine, have a private party, and get the finest cuts of meat anywhere. The Steak Shop on Mack Avenue in Grosse Pointe Woods, or order online, fairwaypacking.com.
Where's the most convenient place to get that big fitness energy?
It's Planet Fitness.
Join today for just $1 down, $10 a month. With over 2,400 locations and equipment for every workout, you can get in, get energized, and get going. And with free fitness training and most clubs open 24 hours, everyone belongs in the judgment-free zone. So join today for $1 down, $10 a month, no commitment, cancel anytime.
Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests, for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
Dreaming of a new home but feeling the financial pinch? Mark White & Associates, your trusted real estate experts, are here to help. Mark White and his team will pay up to $5,000 of your closing costs. That's right, I said $5,000. Call Mark White & Associates today at 248-290-8242 or visit them at markwhitesells.com. Again, call Mark White today at 248-290-8242 to make your dreams come true.
We're back. It's the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. Let's break down this article. I think Jeremy Reisman did a really good job on this article. PrideOfDetroit.com. It's titled The Detroit Lions' 3 Biggest Issues and Whether They're Fixable. And it's a closer look at the Detroit Lions' 3 biggest issues. And you guys can help me determine, are they fixable? The first thing he lists here in the article is turnovers. Excuse me, which I believe are an issue, an absolute issue. First 6 games of the season, 6 turnovers. Last 7 games, 14 turnovers. Over double than they had the first 6 games. And he lists, Jeremy Reisman put this in here. I think this is a great point too. And I'm going to read this before I get to that. He writes, the Lions have been incredibly turnover prone over the last 7 games. In fact, only 2 teams that have more turnovers over that same period are the Jets and Browns. That ain't a great pool to be in.
Yeah.
Jets and Browns. Okay. Well, he also writes here, for the Lions, the main issue has been pressure. Through the first 6 games, Jared Goff was pressured 32.4% of dropbacks per PFF. In the last 7 games, that pressure percentage has ballooned to 37.4%. And again, we know who Jared Goff is.
Yep.
When he's pressured, more often than not, typically things go wrong. That's just how it works. So the first thing is turnovers. He writes, is it fixable? Yes and no. I wouldn't expect the Lions' offensive line to struggle as much as it's been recently, especially if they get Frank Ragnow back. Without a doubt, Ragnow at center, Graham Glasgow at right guard remains their most efficient offensive line combination out there. And while Goff is struggling right now, he should eventually regress to at least being a below-average passer against the pressure rather than being the worst ever. There you go. But he also writes, but there is a serious problem ahead. The Lions have 4 straight games against teams that pressure the quarterback and force turnovers.
Yeah.
Take a look. The Broncos, they're first in the NFL in takeaways, 18th in sacks. The Vikings tied for 13th in takeaways, 14th in sacks. And then the Cowboys with Dan Quinn and that defense, who are 7th. They're tied for 7th in takeaways, tied for 8th in sacks. Are turnovers an issue? Absolutely. Are they fixable? Sam, the matchups they have coming, you could argue they're not.
It's going to be tough, but here's where I will put one addendum to this whole thing. It's not turnovers, it's Jared Goff. Because when you look at the turnovers in the last 7 games, how many of them have Jared Goff been responsible for? I mean, he threw an interception at Baltimore. I get it, it was a total team loss, but he still threw a pick. He threw a pick 6 against the Raiders. I think they had a couple other turnovers in that game, but one of them was Jared Goff. Even if you look at the last 4 games, I'll exclude the New Orleans one because they played good, clean football. He had 3 at Chicago, 3 at home versus Chicago, and 3 at Green Bay. And one of those was returned for a touchdown. So it's not so much the team just has a turnover problem. It's more about Jared Goff. And I understand that the offensive line hasn't played as well as of late. And when you get Jared Goff under pressure, he is what he is. He tends to be turnover prone. He can't really escape in the pocket. And he's had a problem throughout his career of fumbling and interceptions when everything isn't completely right for him. But I think it's too simple to just generalize turnovers. I think sometimes some people are a little too afraid to just say that Jared Goff has stunk over the better part of the last couple of months. And the biggest reason is he keeps giving the football back to the other team. And going forward, I mean, the Broncos have been very opportunistic. The Minnesota Vikings have a top 5 scoring defense and have been opportunistic. And then the Dallas Cowboys. You want to talk about a team that creates turnovers, a defense that is frightening if you're a guy like Jared Goff. If Micah Parsons is coming at you, if DeMarcus Lawrence is coming at you from the other side and you have to throw the ball up to to a wide receiver who Deron Bland is covering or Stephen Gilmore is covering, that could be a recipe for disaster. So Jared Goff has to clean it up, but against these matchups, I don't know if I feel confident that he will. He just has to do just enough, limit the turnovers just enough, but man, these matchups are not looking pretty. Yeah, and it's more about getting back to complementary football, like the Broncos have been kind of doing. I already mentioned it earlier. They take care of the football and they get takeaways. That's what and Dan said, that's what they're trying to get back to. If you could do those 2 things, your chances of winning a football game significantly increase. It's that simple. Oh, yeah. If the Lions defense could take the football away and Jared Goff can stop giving it away and the Lions offense can stop giving it away, there you go. I know it sounds very simple, but it really is that simple. Yeah. Being disciplined, the penalties are a problem. They were a problem last week. Can't be a problem moving forward. So the turnover thing, are they fixable? I would hope so. I mean, Jared Goff, we talk about a guy who almost broke the consecutive passes without an interception. So we know, at least in his Lions career, he has it in him. But you're right, Sam. He has not played well lately. That's number one. That's the number one issue that Jeremy Reisman listed. The second one is coverage, the Lions secondary. And look, and I'll go through the first 6 games and do the last 7 games, just like I did before with turnovers. First 6 games, 60.8 completion percentage allowed. 8 TDs, 6 interceptions, 79.6 passer rating. That's the first 6 games. Last 7 games, 65% completion percentage allowed. That's 5% higher than the first 6 games. 13 TDs. That's 5 more TDs than they allowed the first 6 games. 3 interceptions. That's 3 less than they allowed through the first 6 games. So the coverage, you're allowing more TDs. You're taking the ball over. You're taking away the football less. And it's a higher completion percentage against your secondary. The passer rating, first 6 games, 79.6. Last 7, 106.3. Ooh. So talk about that for a jump. And then he also writes, Jeremy Reisman, since week 7, the Lions ranked 31st in passer rating allowed, 31st in defense, pass defense DVOA, 31st in dropback EPA allowed, and 29th in success rate. Ooh. So, is that fixable? Can the secondary be better? Sam, I mean, you got C.J. Gardner-Johnson coming back. I think he helps, but at the same time, is one player going to change the entire secondary? You'd hope so, but I would probably lean on the side of this is kind of what your secondary is. Yes, and I don't think there's anybody coming to help. C.J. Gardner-Johnson can help, but it doesn't mean that you'll be a top 5 pass defense all of a sudden with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Sure, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson will help, but you don't know when he's coming back or if he has to kind of get his football legs back from under him, which he most certainly will for missing this much of the season. And I will say this, I want to be a little bit fair before I kind of break down the whole coverage aspect. When you look at the games that the Lions have lost this year, I know we're kind of looking at the last few games, but I'm going to go through all of their losses. When they played Seattle, they obviously didn't have a good day, their coverage or their secondary. They also only sacked Geno Smith one time, and it was Alex Anzalone at the very end. They got 0 sacks versus at Baltimore. They had 0 sacks versus Green Bay, and then they had 3 at Chicago, but they still had a hard time pressuring Justin Fields at times, and even when they did, oftentimes he would escape. So the pass rush hasn't done the secondary any favors, and I will admit that. That being said, and I hate to say this, by the numbers, Jerry Jacobs and Cam Sutton are one of the worst cornerback duos in the NFL this year. And that's just by the numbers. I know we were talking about Cam Sutton earlier as having a good season, but he's had a lot of struggles lately. And Jerry Jacobs, we all know about his struggles that he's had. Listen to this, guys. And I know you guys might not like it, but I got to do it. This season, Jerry Jacobs is the 89th ranked corner according to Pro Football Focus. Take that for what you will. Cam Sutton is the 82nd ranked corner according to Pro Football Focus, and both of them have given up passer ratings allowed when targeted of over 100. And Jerry Jacobs this season, when targeted, has given up 40 receptions for 602 yards and a whopping 7 touchdowns. And we all remember the one that he gave up to DJ Moore after Aiden Hutchinson had jumped off sides on 4th and 13. That's just an example of many with Jerry Jacobs getting cooked. But Cam Sutton, he's been a little bit better, but he's given up 39 receptions for 508 yards and 3 touchdowns this season when targeted, including giving up 6 for 88 and 2 touchdowns against the Chargers, and giving up a perfect passer rating in the game against the Panthers of all teams, which is kind of funny. And then, not to be outdone, Jerry Jacobs, just as an example, when they played the Packers and lost, he gave up 8 receptions for 101 yards and a touchdown for a passer rating allowed of 150.5. And there are numerous other examples. And furthermore, in the games that the Lions have lost, you gave up the best game of the season to Geno Smith, and when they lost to the Ravens, you gave up the best game that Lamar Jackson has had all season. You gave up the best game that Jordan Love has had all season, and you gave up the only game of Justin Fields this season in which he's had a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and no turnovers. So yes, it absolutely is a problem. It's not all the secondary's fault. It's partly due to the pass rush, but the secondary has to share some culpability. It's worse than I thought it was.
Yeah, I agree, and you see it. And now both things can be true. If you're getting to the quarterback and not just pressures, but if you're getting sacks, of course it's going to help your secondary. That it is what it is. That's a fact. Now, the other part of that is Jerry Jacobs is getting picked on a consistent basis. That is 100% true. That is unarguable. You watch it. That Jerry Jacobs is being targeted. There's a reason, and I've been saying that there's a reason why you signed Emmanuel Moseley. Jerry Jacobs was never supposed to be your CB2, but he is. And Emmanuel Moseley went back down. There's no help coming. Kindle Vildor is getting more reps. Can he help? Maybe. And I'm a big Cam Sutton guy. I thought Cam Sutton was a great signing. And this goes for Jerry, too, to some extent. I think Cam's a better player than Jerry, but that defensive line not getting any pressure does not help those guys either. So it kind of goes hand in hand, but you're absolutely right. The secondary just in general has been bad.
Yeah, and
it's just there's nothing the Lions can do right now to fix that. Even C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he can't help Jerry Jacobs and Cam Sutton.
Yeah, and the injuries obviously play a big part in it. I do think they would be a much better secondary with a healthy Emmanuel Moseley and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And, of course, I didn't bring up guys like Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch and Tracy Walker, who have all done some good things this year but have been inconsistent, I would say, all of them. And in the case of Brian Branch, he's had some rookie growing pains at times with also periods of excellence. I just wanted to highlight just how bad the numbers have been for the starting corners for the Detroit Lions, because if you have corners that get burnt that consistently, that bad, you're going to have a subpar secondary no matter how good your safety play is. And the safety play has definitely not been good enough to cover up for everything. The secondary has definitely been an issue at times this year, more than at times. A lot of the time. Oh,
absolutely. And I want to go to the last issue here that Jeremy Reisman writes. So it's turnovers, it's pass coverage, and then the third thing, no pun intended, the third thing is the third quarter. The stupid third quarter, Jeremy writes. And look at the point differential by the quarters. This is crazy. First quarter, plus 24. Second quarter, plus 30. Third quarter, minus 38. Fourth quarter, plus 16. So that third quarter is atrocious. And that's coaching. You're coming out of halftime and you're that bad. That's coaching.
Sure.
100%. And he writes here, the Lions have an edge in each quarter and by a pretty significant margin in each, except for the third quarter. They're getting absolutely blown out in the third quarter, and it doesn't make any sense, to be honest. And by the way, quickly, we watched the game here on the watch party, and we talked about it. Hey, you get the ball out of halftime. They scored, I believe, on back-to-back drives before halftime. Yep. So you're thinking, okay, if they could score coming out of the halftime here in the third quarter, it could change the momentum of the game. Sam, they didn't score at all the second half. So yeah, the second half was bad, but that third quarter has been consistently bad from the Detroit Lions. And now Jeremy Reisman has some quotes here from Ben Johnson I want to read. He says, it's a big deal because it was a problem last year. So it's one that we haven't been able to fix. We're certainly aware of it as a coaching staff. The players are aware of it, and it's something that we're looking to improve. There's a number of ways we're tackling that right now. Dan Campbell says, he said after the Bears loss, we haven't been able to get going. We've done a lot of different things. We've changed what we're running and how we're going to run it, with what we're doing, who we're trying to get the ball to. We fizzled out there, but we've always been able to get it going late third, early fourth. We've traditionally been a very good first quarter, fourth quarter team. I would much rather be a good fourth quarter team than a third quarter team, but that didn't even show up today, which is fair. I think if you're going to choose one, I'd rather be good in the fourth quarter. But Sam, if you're that bad in the third quarter, that doesn't help your chances of winning a football game. But I would point third quarter, that's coaching. Out of halftime, that's coaching.
Well, you hate to say it, because if there's any quarter that you're going to lose and you can blame on coaching, it would definitely be the third quarter, because you have a whole halftime to make whatever adjustments you want. And I know that we're all high, at least on certain members of the coaching staff, particularly Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell. Aaron Glenn were kind of split, but still, they have some good coaches. And in the third quarter, for whatever reason, they have struggled. It's their only quarter this season with a negative point differential. But I will say this. In the third quarter, in games in which the Lions have lost, they've been outscored in those games in the third quarter 32-15. But most of the time, they've been able to withstand some poor third quarters. I can think of the Packers game, for example, not the first one where they played at Lambeau, where they jumped out to a 27-3 halftime lead, but had built such a lead that the Packers could score a couple touchdowns and they would still win. The game against the New Orleans Saints is another one where they had built a lead, but the Saints obviously in the second half on were just scoring at will. But in the Lions' losses, it hasn't just been about the third quarter. In the game against Seattle outscored the Lions 20-10 in fourth quarter and overtime. In the game against Baltimore, the Ravens outscored the Lions 28-0 in the first half. That definitely wasn't about the third quarter. The game was already over by then. In the game against the Packers, the one that the Lions lost at Ford Field, the Packers outscored the Lions 20-6 in the first quarter. And then even in the game at Chicago won the third quarter 9-0, but they also won the first quarter 10-0. So when the Lions are losing, usually it's not always just the third quarter, but when you look at it over the totality of the season, that's not a good time to have a negative point differential. It's definitely an indictment on the coaching to some extent.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you look around a lot of these defenses, and this is the frustrating part as a Lions fan, kind of watching this Lions defense. The Denver Broncos defense, for as bad as they've been the first half of the season, second half, they're one of the best defenses. The Vikings, as bad as they were to start the season, second half, they're one of the best defenses. The Lions, actually, it's the opposite. They were really good to start the season. Now they're one of the worst defenses. That, to me, is not good. And on the third quarter point, is it fixable? Jeremy Reisman, he does point out in this article, which is kind of good news for the Lions. The Broncos, we just went through, the Lions have a minus 38 point differential in the third quarter. The Broncos have a minus 40. Mm-hmm. So, hey, if there's anything I can take out of that, Broncos are a little worse in the third quarter. There you go. There's your little nugget for today. All right, let's go to break. When we come back, I do want to pop up the NFC playoff picture, kind of look at who the Lions are facing, and just talk about some matchups here, because that is the goal, right? Win a playoff game. That's all we ask for. First, though, got to hear about our friends from Guardian Alarm. I wish we had them right now in Detroit.
Oh,
I do.
They would not only win a playoff game, they would go farther than that if they had Guardian Alarm. Let Guardian Alarm offer you customized solutions from real experts. Our professional technicians take the time to recommend security and automation solutions specific to your needs. 24/7 professional monitoring. Call us anytime, day or night, and know that a Guardian team member will stay on the phone as long as needed. Technology backed by people. Your safety and security deserves technology that's been proven to work and people have been proven to care. Call 1-800-STAY-OUT. That's 1-800-STAY-OUT. Guardian Alarm, your local security experts.
What? Oh, yeah. Nothing. G-G-G-G-A. Oh, sorry. I forgot. There we go. Oh, cheers, buddy. I think we need to get you a pick.
Now, coming to Woodward Sports, Woodward and Main Street, the Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com.
At work and at home, we're there with smarter security solutions. Featuring complete automation with customized alerts and more. For over 90 years, we've been the company that's been counted on to protect what matters most, all with personalized service and care. Right now, for a limited time, receive a free video device plus free installation with a new home system. Guardian Alarm. We protect Michigan.
For over 60 years, Fairway Pack & Co. has provided Michigan's finest restaurants, hotels, and casinos with prime beef, Wagyu beef, and dry-aged beef. Experience the Fairway difference for yourself today. Visit the Steak Shop in Grosse Pointe Woods for grab-and-go steaks, or you can order online at fairwaypacking.com. Get your meat. We're back. It's the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. We just kind of went through some issues for the Detroit Lions. I love that. Self-examining. That's what we've been doing today for the Detroit Lions. Now it's time to kind of look forward into the future, to the postseason, and where the Lions stand at this very moment. JB, you can put up the graphic. Who the Lions are facing in the postseason at this moment. Look at that. Packers are holding on by a thread, by the way. I mean, Tommy DeVito, I gave him the envelope, and he handled business. Tommy, take care of business. He said, say less. And he did it. And they took care of the Packers. Packers are holding on. The Rams are chasing them. A lot of teams in the NFC. NFC in just general is very balanced after the top teams. It's just a lot of teams that are a little under 500 or 500. Now, you see it right there. The 49ers have the 1 seed. I think they'll hold on to that. We'll see. Dallas Cowboys are coming. They're at number 2. They would face off with the Green Bay Packers at this very moment. The Lions would take on the Vikings. And, of course, the Eagles would take on the Buccaneers. Now, I like this matchup. They should beat them. But at the same time, at this point, I don't give a damn by how much they beat them by. I don't care. Nick Mullins, he stinks. But at the same time, the Lions' defense typically makes these quarterbacks look pretty good. I just, you know what? Please, Lions, just win a playoff game. I honestly, that is all I ask. I just want to be able to come on this show and recap a playoff win. That is all I ask. And you have the Minnesota Vikings, who don't even technically right now have a quarterback. If you have Nick Mullins and Josh Dobbs, you don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
They have multiple quarterbacks. You got none. Okay, that's how that works. And the Lions should beat them. That's all I ask. I like it. And who knows how it shapes up. I know I talked about it earlier. The Rams are sneaking up. There's other teams that are kind of right outside the playoff push. But as of right now, you take on the Vikings.
Yeah. No, and the funny thing is that I think we all agree. Sometimes I don't value it quite as much as some, but I think everybody probably in this chat would agree that the most important position in football is the quarterback, and I don't think that's controversial in the slightest bit. But just look at this. When you look at the playoff picture right now, at some point you just have to say it's Nick Mullins and just do a cheer at this point and just end their season right away. Because you look at the quarterbacks in the NFC right now. The 49ers, Brock Purdy. The Cowboys, Dak Prescott. The Packers, Jordan Love, who's also a bit of a question mark, but he's an actual legitimate starting quarterback. The Lions, Jared Goff. The Eagles, Jalen Hurts. The Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield. I know we sometimes clown Baker Mayfield, but he has had some moments. He has had some good moments, and he has, even though I think it was more about the running game, they did win a playoff game in Cleveland with Baker Mayfield at quarterback. And then with the Minnesota Vikings, Nick Mullins. At some point, you just have to say it's Nick Mullins and just vanquish them, because despite the fact that you often see Cinderellas win a playoff game, quarterbacks like Nick Mullins usually don't win playoff games, particularly as underdogs. I mean, you look at the last few Super Bowl matchups. Last year, you had Patrick Mahomes versus Jalen Hurts. The year before, Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow. The year before, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. The year before, Patrick Mahomes and Jimmy Garoppolo. And we can say what we want about Jimmy Garoppolo. At least he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. At least he was at the time. He's miles better than Nick Mullins. And then you look at even the year before, Jared Goff, Tom Brady. And I could go on and on and on. The Lions should actually be thanking their lucky stars if they get to play a Nick Mullins-led team in the playoffs. If it were Josh Dobbs playing like he was when he was first in Minnesota, I'd be a little worried. If it was Kirk Cousins, I'd be more than a little worried, particularly since the Vikings have such a great defense this year. But it's Nick Mullins. And obviously the playoffs might not play out like this. The Lions will have a lot to say about it because they play the Vikings twice in the regular season, but I think that would be a matchup that Lions fans should dream of because it's Nick freaking Mullins.
And this, please, no Matt Flynn stuff, all right? Please. It's Nick Mullins, who's not mobile. So this whole conversation about the Lions' defense and how they match up with mobile quarterbacks, he's the opposite of that. And I want to read some of these comments because people are chiming in. Adrian says Lions' D will make Mullins look like an all-star. Hopefully not.
That's the concern.
Hoofhearted says when a team has a quarterback as bad as Nick Mullins, your offense can take its time and score enough against even the best defenses. Let's see here. Phil says we had a team that included the whole city. Dan cared about the city. Now canned answers, hidden moves, and confusing schemes. Herb Nash says QBs like Mullins tend to have career days versus the Lions. And I don't want to make this like an SOL venting session where we're like, well, Matt Flynn and, typically the Lions allow these guys to have career games. I don't want to think like that. The Lions, because again, they've taken care of inferior quarterbacks early in the season, and I that was one of the bigger criticisms. You beat a Baker Mayfield, you beat a Bryce Young, you beat these guys, go beat someone good, and now it's like they can't beat a Nick Mullins.
Sure.
When they showed us they could beat these inferior quarterbacks. So they have it, JB. They got it in them. They got it in them to take care of the Vikings, and I do believe if they were to match up with the Vikings, it's early. We'll see how the seeding shapes up. You could get a different team, but at this point, that's a playoff win. I think as long as they don't turn the ball over 3 to 4 times, they should beat the Vikings. I do believe that. Because you'll have Houston back, and you'll have C.J. Gardner-Johnson back, and hopefully a healthy offensive line. Yeah,
that's very true. Hey, that's all we wanted, a playoff win, and I think it could be an easy win. I think if we actually play the Vikings, and it is Nick Mullins, as you guys have stated, the dude's a statue, and we should be able to get to statue-esque quarterbacks. And maybe it might be a field day for Aiden Hutchinson, a guy who we've all been clamoring for to at least have one of those big games. And hey, this just might be it. I'm hoping for it. And hey, it's the Vikings. If you can knock them off in the regular season, what is stopping you from doing it in the playoffs once again? That is, if we get them. So hopefully it's the Vikings.
What about you, KG? Where are you at with the Lions in a playoff win? You still, because before this season I was confident 2 things would happen: division win, playoff win. I'm still confident. Where are you at with that? Your confidence level?
Definitely still confident, but as this stretch of football draws closer and closer, you can see it's wearing on this team. And to y'all point earlier, if you see a team 3 times within a matter of 5 weeks, that's tough, man. That's a lot of game film, and for a defense that's already struggling, it would be a bit of a concern. Now, Nick Mullins, you don't expect him to come into Ford Field and pull out a victory, but we've seen crazier as Lions fans. So yeah, definitely still confident, but facing the Vikings 3 times in 5 weeks would definitely be a concern to me with this defense, the way they're playing.
And Kevin O'Connell, we'll see how it trends, but what a coaching job he's done, man. Like him, Kevin Stefanski, like these guys that have had multiple quarterbacks all season. I think it's impressive. Now we'll see how Nick Mullins looks. He starts this week officially, and who knows? He might stink, and they might go back to Josh Dobbs. But to be honest with you, I know it sounds weird because he just got benched. I'd be more worried about Dobbs just because of his mobility.
1,000%.
Even if Kevin O'Connell feels like Nick Mullins gives them their best chance to win, I don't care. I think Dobbs' mobility would give me cause for concern, but they should be either team. Dobbs or Nick Mullins. If AG, and I want to read this comment because it's spot on, who farted, also says this, I would be more worried if Dobbs was the quarterback, and I wouldn't be worried about a Dobbs at all. That's kind of where I'm at, too.
That's interesting.
And I want to find this one comment that kind of spoke on AG, and I can't find it. But essentially they said if you lose to the – oh, who farted? If Mullins beats the Lions, that's AG's last game as DC. It's got to be. You can't – this defense looks terrible against the Vikings in the postseason at home. Someone's got to fall on the sword. Well, that's just, it is what it is.
I think it would be if the Lions lose and they give up a career day to Nick Mullins, because we know what the Vikings defense can do. I think the Lions offense can definitely do its thing against the Vikings defense. But as I said before, the Vikings have a very good defense, and if they stifle the Detroit Lions and they lose, maybe you don't fire Aaron Glenn. But if Nick Mullins does to the Lions what Daniel Jones did to the Vikings last year, I will absolutely get my pitchforks out and say fire Aaron Glenn. And I'm not there yet, but I will be at that point.
Yeah, because if you lose 2017 in the postseason, listen, I'll be frustrated at the offense, of course. But if the defense, like you said, a career day to Nick Mullins, and the dude gets paid because of it. The Vikings, that's what happened last year. Their defense got torched by Daniel Jones. They went out and got Brian Flores immediately. Listen, I've been defending AG, but I can't defend that. If Nick Mullins, a man who is a career backup, who has 36 rushing attempts for -3 yards in his career, he's a statue, a complete stat. He's a statue of liberty of quarterbacks. I would be frustrated. I would. Let's see. People are chiming in. Dan Wood says Mullins was great on the Golden State Warriors.
It's about Chris Mullen. Run TMC, right?
Yeah, this ain't Chris Mullen. This is a different Mullen. I honestly, I think Nick Mullins ain't no Chris Mullen. I'll tell you that. No. Yazin, I believe how you pronounce his name. Sorry if I mispronounced it. If Mullins pulls a Flynn, please somebody push a button.
Well, and not only that, the funny thing is, and Kenji, you brought this up, that crazier things have happened to the Lions. But I'm even thinking to myself, like, have they losing a home playoff game in their most resurgent year they've had in many years to Nick Mullins? I mean, think about it. Matt Flynn, it was kind of like a little bit of a pseudo playoff game, but it was the last game of the regular season. When the Lions, their last 3 playoff losses have come to Russell Wilson, Tony Romo, and Drew Brees, which is that's usually how it works. So yeah, a loss to Nick Mullins would actually be, especially if you give up a big game to him, planets colliding bad. Franchise altering potentially.
We have stunning analysis from Denver Blair. He says, I literally just farted. Okay, thanks for that, nice. Denver Blair. Joey 2 times says false. It doesn't matter because Jacob Shadow's in the slot too. Irrelevant. Talking about Jerry Jacobs there. Booner says, Flannel, your pitchfork is already out. You just need to sharpen it at that point.
No, I've never been in a fire. I've never called for Aaron Glenn's job at this point, but he's trending towards, there is definitely a scenario in which he doesn't keep his job at the end of the year. There's a myriad of things that could happen to where Aaron Glenn has to go, but I hope that's not the case. I hope if they make the playoffs and win a playoff game, I think that he will be retained no matter what. And I think that's what will happen, and I think that's what we should expect to happen, so we shall see.
Klotz in the chat says, give me Mullins over Goff. You're okay. All right, Klotz. Man. You're trolling. All right? I'll take if you're going to give me that gabagoo over there in New York, I'll think about it. But no, that's out of pocket. All right, let's go to break. When we come back, I do want to get into the, where the Lions kind of measure against the top teams. Dallas, Philly, San Francisco. How far are they away? Or are they there? Do you think they're already in that conversation? We'll have that discussion when we come back. But right now, I got to tell you about our friends over at Big Boy. Allow me to do that. Wintertime in Detroit is always better with comfort foods from Big Boy. You can try their new Southern Comfort Chicken Bowl. They got breakfast. They got dessert. You can try the new gingerbread shake for dessert. You stop by your local Big Boy today.
Savor the heart of home at Big Boy with our all-new down-home comfort dishes. Feast on home-style goodness with our Southern Comfort Chicken Bowl, veal parmigiana, and apple pie hotcakes. The down-home delight doesn't stop there. Potato pancakes are back. Dive into the richness of our perfectly crafted potatoes with our classic potato pancakes and our stuffed potato pancakes. Top off your meal with our new gingerbread shake, a seamless blend of creamy vanilla and sweet gingerbread flavors. Nothing beats the comforting taste of down-home cooking. Enjoy every bite, only at Big Boy.
Stop searching for a vehicle and start finding one. Les Stanford Chevrolet Cadillac makes it easy. We harness the power of multiple dealerships and own the biggest selection of GM brands in the area to get you the car you need. With the Les Stanford Group, you'll have access to 4 different dealerships, providing you with more makes, more models, and more choices. We're connected to more than 1,000 vehicles. And with so many high-quality CPO vehicles available, you'll find new car quality at pre-owned prices. You can start and end your search at lesstanford.com today.
Let's talk about Outdoor Equipment Company, official equipment provider of Woodward Sports, Michigan-grown, family-owned, bad boy mowers, tractors, steel handhelds, and even weed whippers, Liberty trailers, Generac generators, Snow X-Plows, and Salters. Outdoor Equipment Co. has it all. Buy it, rent it, 0% financing, delivery to your doorstep. Visit their website at outdoorequipco.com.
We're back. It's the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, choosing us this morning. If you could do me a favor here, we're only 14 away from 100 likes. Let's set the tone for the network this morning. If you could hit that like button, I'd much appreciate it. Let's have the conversation. Where the Lions stack up against the top teams in the NFC. Coming off a tough loss, very tough loss to the Chicago Bears, a supremely inferior team, a team that they should have beat. But it is what it is. Divisional game, they drop one. They didn't play well. On to the next. I asked this question because I know after that game, everyone's like, they'll lose every game the rest of the season. They're not even in the same ballpark as these teams. And what I'll say on this topic is this, Sam. I think offensively, they're in that tier. Like, they could compete with these teams. I mean, they're a top 5 offense, despite what they looked like last week. I know they have to get back to what they were, but offensively, I think they can compete with these teams. Defensively, they cannot. They are not in the same ballpark as San Francisco defensively. They are not anywhere in the same ballpark as Dallas. They are not in the same ballpark, at least the pass rush for Philly. Secondary, actually, Philly has a terrible secondary this year, but the pass rush is where they're lacking. That's a big issue on this team. That's why I clamored for a trade at the deadline. Brad didn't do it. We'll see what happens this offseason. So if you're going both sides of the ball in totality, they're not there yet. I think they're about a year away from competing with those teams, which actually, to me, Sam, speaks kind of volumes about where this team is, because they're 9-4 despite all that. They're 9-4, and record-wise, they're kind of in the same ballpark as these teams, despite not having the talent defensively. So to me, that's a good thing. But at the same time, if you're going to ask me, Jeff, are they in the same neighborhood? I would say you're not exactly in the same neighborhood in terms of talent, but you're like across the street in like an apartment complex, and you're saving up money to move into that neighborhood.
Sure.
Like they're in this cute little apartment complex. You look out the window and you see these nice houses, and you're like, oh yeah. Look at that. Look at Dak Prescott over there. Look at that defense. Look at Brock Purdy. Look at that defense he's got. Look at Philly. Look at Jalen Hurts and what he has around him. That's kind of where you are. You're saving up money. It'll take one more offseason to fully go in and buy one of those houses, to move into that suburb, to move into that neighborhood. They're not quite there yet. So I do think this offseason, in the draft, in free agency, with players getting 1 year older, getting another year in the system, I do think they'll get there eventually, but right now they are not. Doesn't mean they can't compete. We'll find out. They go on the road to Dallas later in the year, but at this point, they are not there.
Sure.
They are not there. They're a tier below those teams, trending upwards.
Yep.
As of last game, it would seem like they're trending downwards, but I got to give them credit, Sam. You're 9-4 despite not having the same talent. That's got to mean something.
Yeah, they're clearly 4 at this point in the NFC right now. And I think if there's any position group where the Lions can compete and even are better than some of the other contending NFC teams it's in the backfield. I would say Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery is still the best backfield in the NFL, although the 49ers on their own have Christian McCaffrey and then whoever their backup is. I know Elijah Mitchell, but Christian McCaffrey's a superstar. But then when you look at the Lions backfield versus DeAndre Swift and Kenneth Gainwell, I would take Gibbs and Montgomery, and I would take Gibbs and Montgomery over Tony Pollard and company. So that's where they measure up. They measure up on the offensive line when healthy, although the Eagles have a damn good offensive line themselves, and the Cowboys' offensive line has had a resurgence. And at tight end, of course. I would still take Kittle over Laporta by a smidge, but I think Kittle clears Dallas Goedert, and I think Laporta clears Dallas Goedert, and Laporta clears Jake Ferguson. But as of right now, the Lions are clearly fourth. But here's what I will say. To me, it goes 49ers, spacebar, Cowboys, spacebar, Eagles.
The double spacebar.
Here's what I'll say. So and then Eagles, like spacebar, Lions. The Philadelphia Eagles, believe it or not, I know they've played a tough schedule. I know they've played a tough stretch. I know they've had a first-place schedule. They're coming off of a Super Bowl loss, and there's often a hangover to that. The Philadelphia Eagles, even though they have so much talent on that defense, have the 5th worst scoring defense in the NFL over the totality of a season, which is even worse than the Lions. I know the Eagles have played a tough schedule, but over the totality of a season, which is 12 to 13 weeks in, it's a big deal. And they're also 5th worst in the NFL in passing defense. And think about this. This is an Eagles defense that has Jalen Carter, Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis. And in the secondary, you've got Darius Slay, James Bradbury, now Kevin Byard, Reed Blankenship. He's probably their weakness. Edmonds. And their defense is still struggling so much. And that's why I think they are vulnerable. Whereas the 49ers are number 1 in scoring defense and 3rd in scoring offense. And the Cowboys are number 1 in scoring offense and 4th in scoring defense. So that's why I would say the Niners and the Cowboys are a tier above even the Eagles, who are then a tier above the Lions. Do I think the Lions can win a playoff game? Absolutely. But I don't trust them to beat any of those teams in the playoffs. Although, if it happens, one of those opponents, either the Eagles or the Cowboys, would be at home, where I'd like their chances a little bit more, but still. The Lions are clearly 4, and for now, that's okay.
And the analogy I mentioned earlier about the neighborhood, and they're in the apartment complex, the 49ers are in a gated community.
For sure.
So they're in the gated community by themselves, smoking cigars, and then outside in the middle class neighborhood or the middle to upper class neighborhood, you got Dallas and you got Philly, and then the Lions are just saving up money to get in that neighborhood. All right, the 49ers, we'll think about that later. That's about a year or 2 away. But the Lions, I think, JB, despite all the things we can criticize, the rebuild is on the right track. I think we can all agree with that despite what we've seen.
Yeah, that's true. I think the rebuild is on the right track. I mean, we've got the guys there, the unique pieces that we need, but still at the same time, all these other teams, they just seem to be getting that much better, a little bit more better, just because they're finding these free agents that aren't, vibe guys that we want to have in the locker room all the time. Man. But hey, at some point in time, you have to take a chance and just get one of those aggressive guys that is actually going to put the quarterback on their ass. And I don't know if we can find that in the draft, because I feel like that's Brad Holmes' MO, just, draft more guys and draft a younger talent, develop them a little bit more. But at a certain point, you need that veteran who's just a dog, in the words of our boy Lucas Klotz. So
a dog.
Just find those dogs out there and then add them to the team right now. And then I guarantee you, we will be up there contending with the Phillies, with the Dallas, with the 49ers. It just takes time.
So what you're saying is vibes are there.
Vibes are there, but are vibes winning championships is the real question. Are vibes winning championships, which it is not.
KG, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, you got to give them credit to this point, because they have absolutely came through on all the predictions, the preseason predictions that people had for them, all the expectations. They've handled it pretty well. And like you said, offensively, they can compete with anybody. And also, I want to give some shout out to coaching, because Dan Campbell, to me, this year has shown a lot of improvement as a head coach. Last year, we had a lot of questions as to, what's he thinking on some of these fourth downs? Is he really going to be the guy to get us over the hump going forward?
Right.
And he's done a great job of not coaching us out of games this year and making relatively the right calls at the right times. But defensively, whether it's scheme, personnel, it's a little bit of both. They absolutely need help. I think they're also one offseason away from really putting this together, but that'll be on Brad Holmes to really bring it home with free agency and the draft. But more so to me, free agency, because like JB said, we need some dogs in here, some certified dogs. You don't want to just keep bringing young players in here, because there is a learning curve for most young players, unless you're like Michael Parsons or some freak of nature. But you just want to see them really build upon this in the offseason and keep this train going.
Gritville says lack of talent is just that. Lack of talent to execute a winning scheme. You can't always make lemons into lemonade, not always. Brian Root says, just think we could have right now at CB 1 and 2 Bradbury and Johnson from Chicago right now. Effing sad. Max Mayer says, I like Sutton. I wish they put him number one wide receivers more than Jacobs. Yeah. Jake says, Sam Flannel's unaware that the tab or enter key exists. Speaking of Dan Campbell, you already mentioned him, KG. Let's go to break here. When we come back, we'll grade him. The Lions offense, defense, Aiden Hutchinson. We'll give all the grades, and then we'll get into our Pistons quickly. About a 10-minute discussion. It's going to be kind of a fun discussion. Just, you think they're going to break the consecutive loss record?
Torture session.
Oh, my God. That was set previously by Trust the Process in Philly. They lost 28 straight games, I believe the number is. Have to double check that.
God, those years when Simmons were out and Joel Embiid was out, and
so bad. And by the way, big shout out to the Redwings yesterday. Big win. Johnny Burgers. Yep. He was on ice for like 10 minutes. Goal. I like Johnny Burgers a lot.
They needed that in the worst way.
They did, and they needed that win. Perron's appealing. You got Larkin out indefinitely. They needed that win, man, and they got it. So, again, thank you to the Red Wings for just blessing us with some sort of success this season besides the Lions. Thank you. Let's go to break. But first, we got to hear about our friends from Swiss Insurance.
Do you have football on the brain? Of course you do. Fall ushers in college and professional football, and this year has been awesome. Fall is also a perfect time to shop your home and auto insurance. Shop it like a pro with Swiss Insurance. They cover Woodward Sports Network, and they should be covering you too. Ask for Mark at Swiss Insurance today at swissins.com or call 248-800-4177. Again, that is 248-800-4177. Swiss Insurance.
Swiss!
Where's the most convenient place to get that big fitness energy?
It's Planet Fitness.
Join today for just $1 down, $10 a month. With over 2,400 locations and equipment for every workout, you can get in, get energized, and get going. And with free fitness training and most clubs open 24 hours, everyone belongs in the judgment-free zone. So join today for $1 down, $10 a month, no commitment, cancel anytime.
Woodward Sports own Tom Mazaway and Sam Stick Day will be hosting our Lions postgame show after every Lions game all season long. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel for his hot-off-the-press takes, game analysis, and Kool-Aid sipping celebrations. You won't want to miss it. Join Maz, Stick, and special guests each week immediately following every Lions game, exclusively on the WSN YouTube channel.
Gabby is a college student struggling to study for her big exam. Then she discovered Syntron, a healthy way for her to stay awake and focus. Jennifer frequently has chaotic days like this until she gets online, orders some Syntron, and finds her groove. April visited her local grocery store, purchased a case of Syntron, and entered to win the Syntron 100K Vegas giveaway. Pick up your case of Syntron today at any Meijer location or visit drinksyntron.com/Vegas and enter for the 100K Vegas giveaway.
Just in time for football season, Glorious Cannabis has dropped their new ice water bubble hash infused pre-roll called Honolulu Blue. It smells so good, it's like the whiff of the first playoff win in 31 years. It's a gassy, aggressive strain named in honor of our Detroit football team. And if you haven't had one of these ice water pre-rolls, then what are you waiting for? You are missing out. You can find them at a Dispo dispensary near you for 25% off. Visit them online today at gloriouscanna.com.
Bradley says, I can't wait till Sticks says on the postgame, come on, guys, we're 9-8.
That'll 100% happen. I mean, they're not going to be 9-8, but if that were the case, 100%.
I can see Stick doing that too. Guys, it's a winning season.
We're Lions fans. What more can we expect?
We have a lot to be proud of, you guys.
Yeah, I love that. Hugh says, bring cutlets home. Hey.
Straight up for golf.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. You saw sausage and peppers. His family had the whole, just layout for fans after the game. That was an awesome storyline. But let's talk about grades for the Lions. And we do this typically. We did it weeks ago. And let's give some updated grades. And I want everybody in the chat to play along. Give your grades each person we go through. We're going to start off. The first person we're going to give a grade to, Dan Campbell, MCDC. And I'll start. Sam, I'm going to give Dan Campbell this season a grade of A-. I'm going to give Dan an A- because, and I'm not giving him an A or an A+, because there are a couple of those fourth down decisions. And no, it's not because they didn't convert it. I hate when people say that. If they converted it, you would have loved it. No, I wouldn't have. Absolutely not. That Packers game at home, I was there for Thanksgiving. Everyone was pissed off in the crowd, including myself. I was frustrated. I didn't like it. He still gets an A- to me because of what he's done. The Lions, at least you look at what they've done, they have not lost 2 games in a row this season. And dating back to the winning streak of last season, I don't think they do it this week. I'm confident, and I think Dan Campbell has done a good job of getting these guys kind of to bounce back. And I think Dan overall has done a really good job just kind of keeping everyone on the same page, calming. He's been the voice of reason for this team, and I think Dan Campbell, in terms of player development, he's done a pretty good job. And there's not much I could say in critique Dan. I mean, you look over dating back to last season, they were 8-2, and then this season they're 9-4. I mean, you're still, 17-6?
Yeah.
So Dan Campbell, to me, gets an A-.
I would go B+, because at this point, Dan Campbell is still very much alive for Coach of the Year in the NFL, and I think that's huge at this point. The only thing I will knock him for is that I think the third quarter, them being outscored on the season, is a bit of a ding against Dan Campbell. I think a couple of the coaching decisions, like the fake punt against Green Bay, playing for the tie against Seattle, and then I don't know if this was Dan Campbell or Ben Johnson who made this play call, but the slow developing run in their own territory on 4th and 1 against the Chicago Bears. He still had a few in-game decisions that were questionable, but some of those same type of decisions helped win you games, like at Kansas City and at the Chargers, when it took some cojones to do that. So as of right now, I would say B+, but he has a chance to jump to an A- depending on how the season ends.
I don't mind it. B+ is fair. What about you, JB, KG? What grade would you give Dan Campbell so far this season?
I mean, I really like Dan Campbell, so I'm going to go with a B here. Not super high, not doing a B+ or anything like that, or B-, but he's a great leader for this team right now. Hell of a motivator. I think, as you said, Jeff, he's found a way to get into these guys' heads and tell them, hey, we can bounce back after a loss. That mistake that you threw or the mistake that you had out there on the field, it wasn't so bad as long as you learn from it. Yep. I think he's a great teacher, and I mean, he's a risk taker as well too when it comes to coaching, which you kind of like, and you want to love for this guy. So I think I'm going to give him a B at least.
Yeah, and my A- kind of ties back in the last segment. We talked how far is the gap between you and these top teams. Record-wise, they're right there despite not having the talent. To me, that's on Dan. It's credit to him. KG, what grade would you give Dan Campbell this season?
I got to steal your grade. A-. It'll be an A with a division win, and then A+ with a playoff win if they can finish this off with one
fair.
or multiple playoff wins. He's done everything I've wanted him to do this season, and a majority of Lions fans, he's already matched the win total from last year. Hopefully they can finish this thing off strong. That's really going to dictate, what it looks like when it all, wraps up. But yeah, give me an A-.
Yeah, I'm with you. The chat, shout out to you, JB, for the poll. Thank you for that. The poll's up right now. Dan Campbell grade, 27% say A, 60% say B, 12% say C, and 1% said D.
Jesus.
That 1%.
Okay.
Where's the D
Even a
coming
C
from?
at this point, that's a little...
The D's a little aggressive. Pause. I don't know why.
Okay.
Wow.
Hey, yo, come on.
That was on me. That was on me. I'll take that one. Wait, pause
Big
again.
pause.
Damn it. All right, we're moving on. Son of a bitch. All right, we'll move on. Next person we're giving a grade out. Jared Goff. Jared Goff.
It's going to be a sticking point.
Did I really just say that? The D is aggressive? That's messed up, man.
You did.
Yeah, that's... Damn it. All right. That's on me. Jared Goff, what grade would you give the Lions quarterback? This one I thought about. I did. I thought about this one. Because I said, I've been hard on Goff, grading-wise over the last couple of weeks. I think he's struggled. But I think it'd be unfair to be... Because you got to look at the totality of the season. I would give him a C. And he's on the border of C-. He's not playing well. And C is an average, and I think that's right about where Jared Goff is right now. A C. Because the turnovers, if it wasn't for all the turnovers, the fumbles, It's not even about the turnovers itself, because the Bears game, if you talk about when he threw the interceptions, of course, it's not like, it's a tied game in the fourth quarter and he throws an interception that loses the game for you, but still, just turning the ball over point blank over the last handful of games, to me, that knocks his grade down. I'm going to give him a C so far, with a chance to improve, depending on how he plays this week against the Broncos.
I am going to give him a C+ for a lot of the same reasons that you did. I think in 2 out of the last 3 games, the ones that they lost at home versus Green Bay and at Chicago, he had a combined 6 turnovers. I think he was the biggest reason why they lost those couple of games. Even the game at Baltimore leads the offense to 6 points, throws a pick. Even the game against Seattle, I'm going to the games where they lost. He threw a pick 6 in that game, even though that loss as a whole wasn't all his fault, but that was not a very, very good play. And Jared Goff, I think he's regressed a little bit this year as opposed to last year, despite having an upgraded backfield with Gibbs and Montgomery. A guy like Penei Sewell taking the leap into being arguably the best tackle in the NFL, an upgrade at tight end in Sam Laporta, and Amon-Ra St. Brown taking a huge leap. So I think the conditions were set up for him to have a better year than he has had, but you also can't discount the things that he did at the beginning of the year to get them to where they are right now. So right now, C+, and a lot can change.
People chiming in. Ben Bauer says C+, but it could turn into a D if he doesn't play better.
That's fair.
Ed says Goff B. Steve-O says D. Let's see. Andrew says as a whole C+, as of late a D.
Yeah.
Let's see. Chuck says, Jeff, what was he after 8 weeks? His grade after 8 weeks, I would say he'd be in the ballpark of a B, maybe B+. But as of the last handful of games, Chuck, that I can't give this man a B personally. We'll see though how it trends. Detroit Supremacy says if it's totality of the season, it's a B-. Lucas Klotz says 74 overall. He's going with the Madden grade here.
Sounds about a C. Yeah.
Yeah, about a C. Jake says I'd say B-. I think there's some recency bias pulling his grade down a bit, but it shouldn't over devalue his play. All right, let's see the grade, and now we'll go to the chat grades. Jared Goff, 3% say A, 50% say B, 39% say C, and 9% say D.
I'll hate it.
JB, I'll go to you. What grade you giving Goff?
I mean, he was originally a B, but as of right now, C+, which it could change, but as of recently in the games that he's been out there producing, it hasn't been great. And also in the post-game interviews for accountability as well too, he just does not seem to, care as much. It's just, oh yeah, you threw a couple, interceptions out there, a couple balls were ducks out there. Like, yeah, I mean, it happens, it's just the nature of the game. Like, come on, take some accountability for some of this stuff, man. And that's what I find disappointing in him. So as of right now, it's a C+ for me.
And to be fair, his press conference yesterday, I'm not saying he heard it because I was a little aggressive on Monday about what Goff should do at the podium. He did take some blame, which I appreciate because it just seems like every time I listen to Goff at a press conference, they've just played good. Their defense just played good.
The team played better than we did.
Yeah, the team just – it's not the team, dude. Again, the Bears game, those turnovers, again, the timing of them, it's not like, again, it was a tied game at the end of the game and Jared threw an interception. But still, these handful of games, it's been bad. KG, what grade would you give Goff?
Give me a C++. Only because what he did earlier in the season.
That's fair.
People forget that he came, I think through 5 weeks, he had the longest streak without an interception. And then we've had like a rough 6 week stretch of football. So C++ for now. He can still improve upon that grade. But right now I got to give him a C+.
We'll go to Ben Johnson now. Ben Johnson, how would you grade him this season? Sam, I'm going to go B+ with Ben Johnson. I'm not going to give him an A because I think they've bailed on the run, especially against the Bears early on. Now, it doesn't help when you go 3 and out and your offense is struggling. It doesn't help. And when you get down, 10 points in the first quarter, that doesn't help. But I think Ben Johnson, his offense to some extent, is getting a little predictable. He's got to get back to what they are, what their identity is. That's running the football. They have to do that. And I do think Ben Johnson deserves some blame for that. So I'm going to go B+, and that's probably a little friendly. But that's why I can't give an A. Despite the offense, how good it's looked, I just think at times they bail on the run, and that's a problem, especially you got to know who your quarterback is. So I'm going to go B+ for Ben Johnson.
All right, B+ is fine. I'm going to go with A- on this one because over the totality of the season, I'm going to simplify it. The Lions are 9-4, and the Lions are 7th in the NFL in scoring offense. And guys like Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs have all starred this year. So for that reason, give me an A-.
Yeah, could you get the ball to J-Mo, Ben Johnson? JB, what do you think? Ben Johnson, what grade would you give him?
I'll give him a B+. B+, because I still like the offense that he's putting out there. I just wish, as you said, Jeff, he could get the ball to J-Mo a little bit more. I think a lot of these teams and coaching staff have got some film and some tape on Ben Johnson, what he's able to do with this offense. So, of course, they're kind of outsmarting him a little bit. So, if I can see a little, diversity, some change up in the offensive plays that he's calling, then, yeah, he can definitely improve. But as of right now, it's still like a B+ for me.
Yeah, so for me, I got to go solid B. Okay. And strictly because of his J-Mo usage, and to me his play calling is a little conservative, especially later in games.
Yeah.
So for that reason, he would be an A otherwise, but for that reason, give me a solid B.
All right, let's go to break here. When we get back, we'll do Aaron Glenn and we'll do Aiden Hutchinson. We'll just trash that Pistons segment because who cares? We'll talk about that later in the week if we have nothing else to talk about. But let's stick with the Lions grading. I'm having a lot of fun with this. We'll go to break. We get back. We'll do AG. We'll do Aiden. We'll get to what's trending with JB Smoove and Mailbag. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Planet Fitness. Let me do that. Guys, Planet Fitness is the place to go. $10 a month. Your fitness is essential. You go in. No commitment necessary. It's cheap, but also you get everything you need. The top-of-the-line equipment. They got trainers on deck. You might see Neil Rule there, the president. Are you kidding me? You get a chance to see the president at Planet Fitness. That's worth $10 a month. Go over there. Your fitness is essential. Let me tell you about our friends over at Jack Labrador Tour, because like I said earlier, this is one of the most interesting games I've ever played. I had a lot of fun doing it yesterday. The guys over at Jack Labrador visited us, and we all played as a company here. And listen, Mike Gentry got me once. I got him back. It's a lot of fun. It's basically rock, paper, scissors with more. And you can play it. You could have it as a drinking game. It's a great stocking stuffer. And again, for more information, you could visit them. You could scan the QR code right there or visit www.jacklabrador.com for more information. We'll see you guys right after the break.
Come to Lady Jane's for an award-winning haircut experience and register for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to win an all-expenses-paid suite for the 2024 NCAA tournament for you and 5 of your best buds. Lady Jane's open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, 2 of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder.
Feldman Chevrolet, Detroit's #1 Chevy dealer. 18 locations. There's always a Feldman dealership in your backyard. Visit feldmanauto.com to find the location nearest to you, and you can catch us, Woodward Sports, live from Feldman Chevrolet every other Monday in Novi. We're back giving out grades for the Detroit Lions, and we've already kind of went through Dan, Jared, Ben Johnson. Now let's get to Aaron Glenn and Aiden Hutchinson. We'll start with Aaron Glenn. What grade would you give Aaron Glenn so far this season? And that's with all context around it, too. You can judge him on adjustments. You can judge him how the defense looks, all that. For me, Sam, I would give Aaron Glenn a C- on this season, because to start the year, defense was playing well. First 6 weeks, they looked good. They were getting turnovers. They were, again, I get who they were facing, but just looking at the defense, they looked a lot better. Second half, they've been bad. Now, it doesn't help that the offense can't get anything going, and they're punting, and they're turning the football over. It doesn't help your defense. So I'm factoring in all the context. I'm going to give Aaron Glenn so far a C-, and depending on how they play moving forward, that grade could significantly drop. But at this point, I'm going C- for Aaron Glenn.
I am going to go a solid C on this one. And one of the reasons at the positive end, early on in the season, they gave up 6 points and beat the Buccaneers. They gave up 6 points and beat the Falcons, and they gave up 7 offensive points to the Raiders and beat them. So they have had some good performances. They have had to deal with a myriad of injuries. James Houston, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Emmanuel Mosley, Brian Branch has missed some games. Alex Anzalone missed a game, and now moving forward, Ali McNeil is going to miss a couple of games. So it's not an easy job necessarily. But the reality is going into the season, I expected the Detroit Lions to maybe be a top half scoring defense in the NFL. Once again, they are bottom 10. And that is the reason why I have to put them at a C. And the only reason they're at a C and not lower is because it hasn't cost them enough wins for them to be lower. If this was a 500 team right now, I'd probably have them at like a D+. But since they're still winning for now, I got to go C. But it's close.
What about you, JB? What do you think?
Man, I don't want to grade this guy too harshly, but geez, my heart's telling me go with a D, but I think I'll go with at least like a C-, something like that. Just because, as Flannel said, the defense is bending but not breaking, and they're getting to the point where now it's, just kind of falling apart here and there. I know some of these games they've been in close proximities of other teams, but a lot of these games is just like, hey, are they even learning from these defensive mistakes? Is anything going to change? Is AG going to do any in-game adjustments or any schemes that he can do differently in the second half that he hasn't done in the first? And it's trending like he hasn't, and he won't do any of that. Like, he's going to stick with the game plan that he has for the beginning of the game and then just ride it out to see how it goes. So as of right now, C-.
What about you, KG?
I'll go with Flannel's grade of a flat C. Mainly, I just got to see better scheming, especially with like the front four, because the pass rush has been our biggest weak point in the defense this whole entire year.
Right.
I haven't seen enough of scheming wise of him trying to fix that. Also, red zone defense has been absolutely terrible this year, and you want to limit teams to 3 and not give up the big 7. If you're going to bend, you shouldn't break, as JB said.
Yep.
So right now it's a C, but like you said, it could get worse. It just depends on how they close this out, but it's getting worse by the day.
Now, speaking of the defense, what about Aiden Hutchinson? What grade would you give him? For me, I would give Aiden so far in the season, I'm going to give him a B, because I think he's been impactful, although me and Sam go back and forth about pressures and sacks. I mean, put that all aside for a second. These issues on defense, the last thing I'd point to is Aiden. Now, he made 2 bad plays against the Bears, but that doesn't ruin the entire season he's had. Despite the sacks, not getting the sacks maybe we expected him to, Aiden is still your best defensive player. That is a fact. That is a fact. Now, Anzalone's playing really well, but Aiden needs more help on the defensive line. I think we can all admit that. And despite everything that he's had to win through or go through, I'm going to give Aiden a B, with a chance for that to improve depending on how he plays at the end of the season. But yeah, he's probably the least of your worries on defense. I think everyone can agree on that. I'll give him a B, Sam Flannel.
I am going to give him a B+ on this one. I get it. I know a lot of people aren't going to like it and say I'm a slappy. The sack numbers aren't quite what we thought that they were, but people are acting like he has 2 or something. 6.5 isn't terrible, but it's not elite either. But in those games and where Aiden Hutchinson has recorded a sack, the Lions are 4-1. And he's also had games in which he hasn't recorded a sack in which he has been very, very impactful. We look at the first game at Kansas City. He had 3 quarterback hits. He was constantly putting pressure on Patrick Mahomes. He was great in that game. In the game against Tampa Bay, he didn't really show up in the stat sheet that much, but the defense as a whole gave up 6 points. Against the Raiders, the defense as a whole got 6 sacks and gave up 7 offensive points. Aiden Hutchinson didn't get any, but he opened things up for a lot of other people like Aleem McNeil and Alex Anzalone. And then in the game at New Orleans, in a win, by the way, all of these are wins, he had the highest pass rush win rate of any player that particular week. So he has been impactful. He has made plays. And I always like to point this out, he is number 9 in the NFL amongst edge rushers according to PFF. Take that for what you will. If you guys want to say that's useless, that's all well and good. But he has done all of this despite having only Aleem McNeil as his help. But I know I'm going long-winded, but I got to defend my boy. Think about this. Charles Harris, we expected something from him. John Kaminsky, we expected something from him. The Okwara brothers,
Yeah.
James Houston injured. Isaiah Buggs. Seriously, that's and now moving forward, Aiden Hutchinson is going to have to deal with some of the worst help I've ever seen a star edge rusher have, because no Lee McNeil moving forward. So if he can finish this season strong and the Lions can win a couple of those games and the defense can make some critical stops, you guys got to put more respect on Aiden Hutchinson's name. But I won't go with an A or an A-, but I'll go with a B+.
Yeah, I mean, and in some of these comments, Chuck Brewer says, Jeff, you feeling okay with all these B's around? I am okay, Chuck.
Oh, that's funny.
I am good. I am good at this point in time. Big Show Picks says Jeff never takes hot takes. He doesn't want shit coming back at him. Mid. Okay, so I should just give Aiden an F for a hot take? I don't do things for numbers, guys. I don't do things for hot takes. I speak my opinion. That is what I believe in. I'm not going to lie to get a reaction out of people. I think that's a little ridiculous. But JB, what grade would you give Hutchinson?
I got to go with a B. Like,
okay.
I agree with Sam with the pressures and the sacks. You know, those are numbers that we would love to see him improve upon, and maybe he can do that within time. I don't know. Maybe it's just the same old moves that he's doing out there on the field. It's just like, hey, we kind of know what you're about to do. Maybe he needs to take some time off and actually learn from some other players what else he can do to try to get to the quarterback. But the numbers, you can't deny the numbers. Pressures, even though it's not a stat that we all truly care about, it exists. It is there, and it happens. And he's got 6.5 sacks so far for the season. So, you know, I can't be mad at the guy. He's improving. He's trying his best out there, and it's really all you can ask for right now at this point. You would like to see more, but if this is all he's going to be able to give us right now at this point, then it's a B for me.
What about you, KG?
I gotta go C. He's just been average, and we know that he's missing a lot. I'm not saying that, but I mean, when I watch him, I just have to see more when he gets one-on-ones. To me, his pass rush moves just have not evolved from year 2 to this year. So yeah, I just want to see more out of him, and he's missing a lot. AG could be doing better scheming him up to me. He can be doing more stunts and things of that nature. But I just got to go off what I've seen. And if I'm going off last year as a barometer of where he can be, you would think he would have improved this year. So just to me is a C this year.
Yeah, it depends how you grade. I mean, to your point, if you're grading on production, I get that. Sacks are how you grade these guys, and he's on track to kind of have a similar year than last year, so I get that. I chose B because I tried to factor in everything. So I get where both sides are coming from, but I'm kind of leaning more on Flannel, despite we argue all the time about it, because he still has an impact. But you are right.
I mean, the pressures are great, but it's not sacks. It's not getting home and loss of yardage. So I just need to see more out of him personally. Like I said, it's not accounting anything else. We know there's other outside factors, but I just got to see more out of him.
I'll tell you what, let's go to break. When we come back, we'll get to what's trending with JB Smoove, and then we'll get to mailbag. But first, we got to hear about our friends from Premier Pet.
Oh, yes, Premier Pet, absolutely. When it comes to your pet, don't settle. I don't settle when it comes to my golden retriever, Jake, and my orange cat, Milo. Yes, give your pet the best like I give my pet the best. Premier Pet Supply is hands down Michigan's best pet store. Family owned and operated for over 30 years. 13 Metro Detroit locations, over 60 brands of food, lowest prices, and curbside home delivery. Premier Pet Supply, give your pet the best. Visit their website at premierpetsupply.com.
Calling all landscapers. This is Darren McCarty. I'm at Outdoor Equipment Co. How would you like to landscape like a legend? How about a bad boy zero turn? And even a chainsaw. And even a weed whipper. Whether you landscape for your job or landscape for fun, get all your equipment from Outdoor Equip Co., the official equipment provider of Woodward Sports. Michigan grown, family owned. OutdoorEquipCo.com.
Woodward Sports' own Tom Mazaway and Sam Stick Day will be hosting our Lions postgame show after every Lions game all season long. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel for his hot off the press takes, game analysis, and Kool-Aid sipping celebrations. You Float while it misses. Join Maz, Dick, and special guests each week immediately following every Lions game, exclusively on the WSN YouTube channel.
Your home is your most important asset. Flexibility in the sales process is key. When you work with Mark White & Associates, you can cancel at any time, for any reason, without penalty. Speaking of flexibility, check this out. Who you work with matters. Hire the best broker in the game.
Centron. Shout out Pete Spivak on that one. Look, y'all, I'm trying to get y'all 100K. I'm trying to get y'all to Vegas. And how you do that is by drinking Centron Energy. Purchase a 24-pack and enter to win at registerdrinkcentron.com/Vegas. Centron, the healthier energy drink with great taste, look good, feel great, and be the best version of yourself. Again, that's drinkcentron.com/Vegas.
We're back. You know what time it is. What's trending with JB Smooth? JB, talk to me. What do you got for us today?
Yo, what is going on? Yeah, I got a ton of videos over here, so let's try to run through as many as we can as of right now. But first, I think I'm going to start with a video that you sent in, Jeff, from our boy Cam Newton talking about the quarterbacks in his league are just mid.
Lamar Jackson, obviously Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, but Brock, they're not winning because of him.
He's not turning the ball over.
He's managing the game. And if we were to put that in its own right as game managers, Brock Purdy, Tua Tagovailoa, Jared Goff, and really, Dak Prescott. These are game managers. They're not difference makers.
And when you say game manager, I'm not asking you to go out and win the game. I'm just asking you not to lose.
Not to lose the game. Listen, motherfucker, I don't give a damn what you do. You don't have to score every time. You just don't have to throw a pick every time either. If we're going to really call a spade, a game manager is different than a game changer. Lamar Jackson.
Manager, Cam Newton just sat here and called out all these quarterbacks. Guys, what do you think about this?
I said this on Monday, the same thing. We don't ask Jared to throw for 400 yards. We don't even though he's at 300-yard games. I don't ask him to have multiple touchdowns. I don't ask him to have 3-4 touchdowns. All you really need out of golf is just take care of the football. So he is right. He is absolutely correct. And I think when people hear game manager, they think it's like this insult. You could still win with a game manager. Now, the Brock Purdy thing, he is right. He is insulated in San Francisco because of all the talent around him. But Brock, they're winning games because of Brock at the same time. Like, I don't want to completely take away what Brock's been doing. If you watch the 49ers, they had Nick Mullins starting a couple years ago. Didn't look great. They had Jimmy G starting. Didn't look great. Those guys, Jimmy G's a game manager. Brock Purdy, I think, is better. But Jared Goff, his take on Jared is pretty spot on.
I think the take on Jared Goff is fine.
Dak Prescott too. I don't know if he's a game manager at this point. He's playing well.
I think you can argue that Dak Prescott's a better quarterback than Cam Newton was. Cam Newton had one phenomenal year, and then the rest of it was fine at times, but in terms of throwing the football, he wasn't super efficient. I think he was kind of more of a one-year wonder than people want to give him credit for. So he's not the first person I want to hear talking about this, although I do agree with his take on Jared Goff and Tua Tagovailoa. I just think Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott are a level above both of those two right now.
Yes. And when I say you can win with a game manager, I mean you could win games in the regular season and you can win playoff game. You can win playoff game.
Yes.
Games, you're going to need a cream of the crop quarterback. It just is what it is. That's today's NFL, JB.
Kenji, what you think about this,
Need
man?
one of those guys.
I mean, he is partially right. I think Tua is a little better than a game manager, and Dak Prescott, you just got to give him credit for what he's done to this point. Trust me, I don't want to. But it is what it is. But, I mean, like you said, a game manager isn't like a term, a negative term. People just take it like that. A lot of teams need game managers. Jared Goff is an above average game manager, and we've won with him. So, I mean, there's really no real issue to me with what he said. So
yeah, I'm with him.
All right, so moving on a little bit. Now, Jeff, I'm going to need you to take responsibility for your mans here on this one. So it's Dillon Brooks against the Denver Nuggets here. This is from earlier this week. And apparently he has a before game stare down. So he's just staring on the sideline.
Who's he staring at?
I have no idea, but you'll see in a second Jamal Murray comes over here and looks like, what the hell is he doing? And it's just weird. He's just like, yo, you good, man? What? You all right? What's happening? You know,
dude,
okay. All right, you're just going to stare.
Is Dillon Brooks, is he real?
Stare.
Tough guy Dillon Brooks, man.
You're just going to stare. So, Jeff, any explanation as to what the hell is going on with your man right here?
My man? Hold on. What?
Yeah, your guy.
Talking about Dillon Brooks, my man.
Your guy. Yeah.
That ain't my. Hey,
you be caping for him.
I don't claim Dillon Brooks. I don't. Not a big Dillon Brooks guy, even though he's playing well this year. To be honest with you, I didn't. Shout out to Easy because he was clamoring for Dillon Brooks. I thought Dillon Brooks. I thought that thing was going to crash and burn. He's playing well, but it's just some of the things he does is just cringy. Like I don't even know what that is. Like what. Hey, everyone has something they do to get ready before a game. If you want to stare down at the opposing bench, okay.
I mean, is that something Killian Hayes would do?
He plays the. Oh my gosh. No, he wouldn't. But he plays the heel very good. He does. He plays the villain role very, very well.
The weird thing is, though, is that before the year, a lot of people were like, Houston signing Dillon Brooks, those idiots. And Dillon Brooks is actually playing pretty damn well. He's having probably the best offensive season of his career up to this point in terms of efficiency. And the Houston Rockets are 2 games above 500. Obviously, he's been a very important piece to this team. He is weird. I didn't like him. I was happy to see him get vanquished by LeBron last year, but I got to put some respect on his name. He's playing really well. I'm not going to deny that.
Kenji, Kool-Aid, what? Any explanation for this? Kenji, I'll go to you first.
He just tries too hard for me. Like I get he wants to be the villain and embrace the villain role, but it's something that's just like imitation about it. I don't like it. I've never liked it. His play has improved this year, but Ime Udoka is his coach, so I mean, go figure.
Yeah, like what the hell? Like, is this Mortal Kombat? Like,
yeah,
what is he doing?
like come on.
He's just doing the stare down. Kool-Aid, what you think about this, man?
Hey.
Oh no!
Let's go.
No. That is honestly one of the most iconic moments ever when the Grizzlies came out doing that. Jesus.
But I mean, we've seen him now go from one team where he kind of helped change the culture, and then went to another team where he's kind of helping to establish the culture. They were a team full of young players in Houston, and they signed Fred VanVleet. When they picked up Dillon Brooks, I know a lot of us were questioning why, especially with the money he got. You know, Rob Beard and I, we talked about it on the podcast, like. Yeah, we would bring him here for maybe like $6 million a year, but seeing what he's doing right now, he clearly bet on himself, and it's kind of worth that contract that they gave him. And he's helping to affect that culture through all of his weird antics.
Yeah, you ain't lying.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, that's what's trending with JB. Let's get into mailbag because I know there's probably a ton of questions going on in the chat right now. So back to you guys.
Let's do it. And I'll tell you what. Dillon Brooks looks like he needs a drink. So head over to Ham and Pub, Dillon Brooks. Take the edge off, dude. This ain't Mortal Kombat. Head over to Ham and Pub. They got game day specials, NFL games, Michigan sports, whatever you need. Of course, they got it. Ham and Pub. Everyone is known as a regular. They treat you like family. You go over there. I had their wings when we were there for the some of the championship games, and they were delicious. It was on Woodward's tab. I said, say less. Say less. I'll take some wings. Experience your new favorite pub for all things sports, and we'll see you for future post-game shows in Rochester at the Hammond Pub on Tinkin Road. Hammond Pub, they got it all. Check it out.
Since the dawn of moving people, Chevrolet has led the way. The world of transportation is changing. At Feldman Chevrolet, we are leading the charge forward. With every electric vehicle, every mile traveled, one Feldman at a time. The company that puts more Chevys on Michigan roads is now the #1 name for Chevy electric vehicles.
Now, coming to Woodward Sports, Woodward and Main Street, the Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com.
Where's the most convenient place to get that big fitness energy?
It's Planet Fitness.
Join today for just $1 down, $10 a month. With over 2,400 locations and equipment for every workout, you can get in, get energized, and get going. And with free fitness training and most clubs open 24 hours, everyone belongs in the judgment-free zone. So join today for $1 down, $10 a month, no commitment, cancel anytime.
Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, two of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder.
Join Woodward Sports and Long Drink live this Sunday for the official Lions VIP tailgate party. It's at Eastern Market in shed number 5, and it's going to be a bash. My fault. It is actually Saturday this weekend for a big Saturday night matchup against the Denver Broncos. I believe it starts at 5 p.m. and goes until game time. Saturday night in Detroit at a tailgate. Whew, that's going to be a blast. It's going to be a bash. It's going to be a bash, as they say. The official Lions tailgate is back and better than ever. How would you like to pregame with Woodward Sports and be treated like a VIP? Food, beverages, and entertainment all included. Get your tickets online today at bullseyeeventgroup.com or win some from Woodward Sports today. To subscribe to our YouTube, follow us on IG, and direct message Lions VIP.
It's mailbag time here on the Morning Woodward Show. We'll start with Dan Wood, mailbag. He says, on D-Max Outdoor Equipment ad, he says, how would you like to landscape like a legend? Shouldn't that be landscape like a role player, Sam?
Well, I mean, he was a role player. That's facts. He would admit it.
Watch yourself, Sam.
He was a role player.
A role player who made a lot of key plays.
He did.
Very integral part. Very integral part. Maybe not the 2008. Maybe not the 2008 run, Sam, but very integral part.
All right.
Dan Wood, I love it. Always trying to troll. Jesse Adams, mailbag. Who's a better actor, Ryan or Braylon? Second question, Sam would agree Jawan's time in Michigan is like Mel's at MSU, just one good year and not much after that.
Yeah, Juwan Howard's a bum and should be fired immediately. I hate that guy. He burned down what John Beilein built, and his legacy as a player is now tarnished because of that. And he can't stop fighting other coaches or even fighting his own coach, apparently. Get that guy the hell out of here.
Matt N says, mailbag, week 18, if you lose to the Vikings, come to town in the playoffs, you win Seattle comes. If you win, Seattle comes to town. Okay. Are you resting all your starters? That's tough. I mean, it depends how banged up everybody. It seems like a lot of Lions players are banged up at this point, depending on how it looks. If you have the division clinch and you're going to host a playoff game, I actually wouldn't mind it, to be honest with you, if you rested some of those players, especially the guys that are banged up. So I'm not opposed to it, Matt N. I'm not.
I mean,
you're not chasing the 1 seed anymore. So depends on how the rest of the season goes. If the 1 seed's wide open, maybe you do start everybody.
God, that is so tough to predict the future, even see into the future. I will say this, the Lions have had some injury concerns. So if there's players that need to rest, I wouldn't be opposed to doing so. Although sometimes resting too much can be a problem as well. I'll cross that bridge when I get there. It's making my head spin to even think about it.
Just a Fan says, mailbag, what is the Lions' closeout record? I don't want to give... I'll go through it. Why not? Last 4 games of the year, I think at the worst,
2-2.
2-2. Yeah.
At worst.
If you go 1-3, it ain't good.
Yes.
You go 10-7, that ain't good. I think 2-2 is the worst. I do. And I think that Dallas game is probably a loss.
Yeah.
So.
I personally think right now that they beat Denver, split with the Vikings, and lose to the Cowboys, and they win the division. I think that's a success. But at one point, we were clamoring for the 1 seed, but we're just going to have to settle for 11-6, which is okay, by the way. Still get a home playoff game.
Let's see. Booner chiming in asks, let's see. Well, before I get to Booner, I want to go Terrence. He says, mailbag, the sports gods feel our Lions' pain and will bless us with a Pistons victory tonight. Book it. Amen, Terrence. Amen.
Keep praying, too.
Let's see. Booner says, mailbag is a true Jeff, is a big Russ fan. Are you talking about Russell Wilson? Because I would say no. Now, the artist Russ, he ain't bad. I like Russ. He makes some pretty good music. But Russell Wilson, no. No, I'm not a Russell Wilson fan.
I feel like I've had to become a Russell Wilson fan to sort of counteract the erroneous slander. Why does everyone hate this man so much?
he's not genuine. That's why.
He's just cheesy as hell.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so cheesy, so corny.
And there was rumors he wasn't the best teammate while he's been in Denver. So he's kind of like off to himself. He's got the whole Team 3 thing going on. He's kind of like, in his own head a little bit.
But he's also going to be in the Hall of Fame someday. Come on, stop it. Stop. It's Kenji, I will bet my everything that I own that he's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
The only reason I would argue you is this Denver season. This Denver season has really gone a long way in tarnishing him a little bit.
I mean, I would say last season maybe, but this year he's been all right. Like, you don't play your way out of the Hall of, like, come on. He was like a borderline MVP level quarterback for almost a decade in Seattle. They won a Super Bowl. I know they had the Legion of Boom there, but I don't know. I've become more of a Russell Wilson fan to counteract some of the hate because I think it's a little crazy. People acting like he's a bum-ass quarterback. He's a Hall of Fame level quarterback. You'll see. People.
Last 2 questions. We'll do a speed round. Mailbag. Ben says, what are the odds that the Lions bring home the Michigan man Max Crosby? Spoke about how he loved the Lions growing up. I would say slim to none.
Oh.
I would say.
You're probably right.
Even though, Ben, I would love that. Absolutely. I would love to imagine Max Crosby and Aiden Hutchinson. They would wreck games. But we're being realistic here. I think he stays in Vegas. I don't think they trade him. He's a foundational part of what they do. He's the foundation of that entire franchise. So I would say
guys, you got to fit the vibe.
Got to fit the vibes.
Go ahead.
No.
I will say this, just a little quick aside about Max Crosby. Yeah. I don't think he even gets enough I think he should probably be Defensive Player of the Year when it's all said and done. The numbers that he's putting up, the impact that he is putting up while having no help. We talk about Aiden Hutchinson not having help. Max Crosby has had even less for the better part of the year, and he is balling. He should be Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think he'll get it, but he should.
Last question, Noah and Mailbag. Is it realistic to think Hooker could get snaps in the last game, or is it Teddy? Teddy more likely. It's Teddy.
Yeah.
I don't think Hooker, this has been my take on it. I've been pretty consistent with this. I don't think he sees a snap this season. I do not believe that. I think if you're going to see Hendon, it'll be preseason of next year. And if you go to training camp, of course, you'll get to see him. But yes, I think next year is when you see Hendon Hooker. I do not think he plays a snap. If you're gonna play rest starters, I think you'd play Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
That's what you paid him for.
Yeah, exactly. It's what he's getting paid. So that's my take on it. All right, we'll get out of here. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning into the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. Again, don't forget the rest of the shows on the network. Of course, you can tune into them. And then don't forget this Saturday, pregame show, 5:30 to 7:30. I'll be doing that. Maz, of course, and Booner and the entire crew. I believe Mike. And then we'll have Spenny. So it'll be a packed show. Watch party as well. We got that this weekend. Until tomorrow, we'll be breaking down the Broncos-Lions game more in depth. We'll have John Macaroon on. And, of course, I'm going to try to get Micro Mike on Friday, too. So we'll have some great analysis kind of breaking down the game itself. But, again, appreciate you guys. Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel, KG, Detroit Kool-Aid, a.k.a. Brandon Dent, and, of course, JB on the ones and twos. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great one. Deuces.